For decades, American open wheel racing has remained motorsport's most diverse challenge. For decades, it included duels on the dirt, which gave us incredible battles between icons like the late great Bobby Unser and Mario Andretti. Then in the late 1970s came the split and two forks in the road. Through the turmoil, though, remained the allure of being wheel-to-wheel, battling with the world's best across the toughest streets, the best road courses, and the most demanding of speedways in America. For 5 years, the ISOWC offered that challenge to sim racers globally, and after 6 years away, it returns bigger and better than ever, with 50 of the best drivers on the iRacing service and a $7,000 prize pool. Hello and welcome to RaceSpotTV and coverage of the 2021 season of the ISOWC. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, and alongside for the action this season is Lewis McLeod. Former iRacing world champion and a man that knows something about winning in an open wheel machine, Hugo Luis is down in the production booth controlling the action with TV cameras provided by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com. Additional car cameras designed by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. Live timing and scoring can be found by heading to racespot.wtf/Indy to follow along with our partners at Timing 71 and your favorite team and drivers. Lewis, with 10 current or former iRacing World Championship competitors jumping in to challenge the best in the iRacing IndyCar community, this 6-race season is shaping up to be something spectacular. And what better way to start out our Grand Tour of the USA than the fast and flowing Watkins Glen International. Track temperatures will be blistering, and with safety cars an ever-present threat, and 18 drivers already having to return home with qualifying done and dusted, tempers might start erupting as well.
It was a tough qualifying out there, and you'd kind of expect that with a field so strong. There's a huge list of names of intense caliber out there, and across a 60-lap race, just over an hour, it's going to be absolutely intense out there for everyone. All of the drivers from the front of the grid to the back. Strategy perfection and driving consistently is going to be the key today.
And the wonderful thing about this Dallara IR18 on the iRacing service recently got a new tire and a damaged model as well. Really has become, Lewis, one of the premier cars on the service from the very start of its release on the service. It was released to sim racers before the real-life competitors got to get their hands behind the wheel. And the same thing here today. We had the Aero Screen 12 months ago that debuted in the iRacing IndyCar Challenge. Now, though, drivers have to deal with red versus black tires. The first time in iRacing history we'll see that in a championship of this caliber.
And that's what we love to see, the openness of strategy. Of course, in this car, we've always seen the sense of fuel saving and fuel strategy being a key part. But now having the tyres a part of it and how they play it, of course, the way it works here is a sort of, I guess, something that we're fairly familiar with to see in motorsport, where soft tyres will be forced to be run by the top 10 as they qualified on that. But outside of that, wide open.
And so I said 50 of the best sim racers. Let's take a look at this Grand Tour that we're going to get over this coming summer. We start from Watkins Glen International, head to the Sunshine State at the start of June to kick off 3 races in the month. Auto Club in Long Beach as well before Road America and the Brickyard, the ISOWC 500 to round things off. In this schedule, Lewis, you've got a nice mix of the road and the street courses and the ovals as well.
We spoke about it a little bit beforehand as to the tracks, that I'm looking forward to, that you're looking forward to. I love the mix. I love a good calendar where we've got the difference between oval racing and circuit racing, but you know me that I love myself a bit of street circuit racing. So to head to Long Beach later in the season, let's go for that. That is going to be a fantastic race, as to be honest, all 6 of those races realistically should be.
Let's take a quick look then at the point structure before we talk about the prizes on offer as well. Very familiar to those who watch the NTT IndyCar Series. 50 points for the race victor, all the way down to just 5 points for 25th on back. Only the top 32 in today's race. The 18 cars that did not advance into the race will not score points, but there are bonus points as well. +2 for pole, +2 for fastest lap, which can be shared if 2 drivers set relatively comparable lap times. And then most laps led as well. 6 total bonus points on offer. And then the prize pool, Lewis. We've got $7,000 in cash, and our championship winner will walk away with $1,500 all to themselves.
Going to be a tough title race, and over only a 6-round season, with this kind of money up for offer, you can't afford to make a mistake at any point throughout the season. Drivers that may do better on road courses rather than ovals, they're going to move aside to those drivers that may well be up in the top 5 across the entire season. I mean, look at the real world where you've got drivers like Scott Dixon that are consistently at the front. Why are they at the front? Why do they win championships? It's because they're at the front no matter whether it's a road course, whether it's an oval, and we are going to see the same type of thing here. It's not just about your road course specialists.
And you can take a look as well. There's prizes on offer, not just for the championship, but across each of the races as well. So if you get a perfect season, you're looking at upwards of $2,000, as well as a custom 1/18th diecast of your Dallara IR18 made by George Simmons. I have a 1 of 1 right now. You can take a look at that up on your screen. Our champion will have a choice between the Speedway configuration and the brand new road configuration diecast that Greenlight has released for 2021. So that's the prizes on offer. Round 1, though, qualifying already done, and we're getting our way into the race session right now. So let's go trackside then and take a look at our starting grid here from Watkins Glen International. So starting on the pole position for the Apex Racing team with Team i5G, the Porsche Tagger Esports Super Cup competitor that raced for Team RLL over the course of 2021. He starts his open wheel campaign here today from pole. Alongside will be Philip Kraus in the silver and pink for Team Talent, with row number 2 Pedro Sanchez Albert and Valtteri Alanda for Cova Esports. Johan Hart, the Frenchman and the iRacing Rallycross World Champion, inside of row 3, where you find his teammate right behind him, Brandon Treno, in the number 9, the 2-time iRacing Indy 500 champion. To his outside will be Syandra for the VRS Satellite Racing team, with Christopher Demerit and Jose Soria rounding out the top 10. Adam Blocker with a lot of work to do, back from 11th position, the highest of the Powerslide Motorsports car. He'll have Adam Crane, the iRacing IndyCar Series champion in 2020, on his outside, with Javi Ross in the 33 and Alexander Walton on row number 7. It's an all-Yas heat, row number 8, with Yao Baz alongside Josh Ladd, with Graham Saunders and Carly Jansen, row 9 on the grid. Henry Bennett in the 007 alongside Ilka Happala on the edge of the top 20, with Ramez Azam and Austin Espity 21st and 22nd. Andreas Eek lines up then in the 76 back in 23rd, with Pierre Verne the Frenchman on his outside to round out row 12. Yao Valverde on the inside of Peter Zuber, with Manuel Domingo and Balisas Remnick, row number 14. Frank Levick and Oscar Mangan 29th and 30th. One more row in our field here today. It will be Dean Woods and Brian Carey bringing up the tail of our 32-car field. The cars are waiting to get underway. There is Zach Campbell with the gold trim as well. He's got one mission on his mind, Lewis, becoming a champion, and he starts it off on pole position here today.
Not going to be an easy track to win at, though, because Watkins Glen, it's an exceptionally raceable circuit, 5.4 kilometres all the way round, and that run from turn 1 all the way up to the inner loop. It's an exceptional run, and in these kind of cars you can definitely make a move before you get to the chicane, before you get to the bus stop as well, down into the boot section. Of course, we're in the Grand Prix layout here at Watkins Glen International. It's a circuit which is open for overtaking, and then you've got strategy to play into it as well, so you've got to look after your tyres, you've got to save a little bit of fuel as well to make that work and bring it to the checkered flag in the best possible way. He's going to be under a lot of pressure all the way through tonight, but in practice and in qualifying did look very, very fast.
And let's quickly then explain to you the qualifying procedure. We'll get a full pace lap here, and so we can explain how 18 cars already find themselves watching on from the sidelines. We started with 50, Lewis. We break them up into 2 groups of 25. They each get 15 minutes out on the track, open qualifying to set their fastest lap time. And the top 16 from each group advances. Big names already heading back. Hugo Olsen, Christian Steele, Powerslide and i5G. They have multiple drivers missing out here, as well as the likes of Stefan Petrak, Marcus Deck, and Nicholas Laubisch.
It's the joy of a bump-style qualifying. I mean, I guess, you know, maybe I'd like the pressure, but for the most part, I think as a driver, I'd hate it because it applies so much pressure onto your shoulders that you need to make a qualifying session go well. You can't just have an average qualifying session and be like, oh, I'll just start towards the back and work my way forward. You need to get on the grid, which that is hard enough on any grid of any caliber. But when you've got drivers and teams as strong and as determined as what we have here in the ISOWC, that it's a tough session out there, and where you've got to make the most of your session, you've got to be in the top 16 in your group to get onto the grid even, and from that point on, if you're starting towards the back of the grid, it's going to be a long day for you anyway. It's tough, but I love it as a spectator. Absolutely love it.
Well, Mystic Lewis, let's get some predictions from you here today. Let's start with your championship winner. I'm going to make you go bold before we've even seen the cars out on track in anger. Take a look at the King of Chins. Wonderful, by the way. Dallara IR18 recently updated with head bubble, so we will get to see that throughout the entirety of today's race. Joshua Chin rolls off on the outside of row number 3. Lewis, what do you think about his chances here today?
I mean, today is a day of, you know, starting the season strong from third. Got a great chance to move up the order to potentially take a win. But over the season, you've got to look back at experience. You know, I know he hasn't qualified particularly well today, but you've got drivers like Adam Blocker, who's way down the order. 8 times IndyCar Open Series champion, has been at the front of these kind of cars since God knows when. A driver certainly to focus on, more so over a championship run, knows how to put it together, not only, you know, on the road courses, not only on the street circuits, on the ovals as well, piecing that all together. But unfortunately for me, when it comes to type, I'm going to put my bet on anyone, and I'm going to say the same thing for the race today as well, so we can cover both things. I think Zach Campbell is going to be the number one. I know starting from pole, I know it's a boring call, but look at his pace, and we know his talent moving forward as a young American talent.
You stole the words out of my mouth. I do believe that Zach is the one to watch, if you ask me. Pole here today, Johan Harth, the only one to go quicker in practice, and that at the closing stages of free practice 3. 8th in the 2021 Porsche Tagger Esports Super Cup standings, representing Team RLL, also the 2019 Indy Elite Series champion. He'll have, though, on his outside, the 2020 Indy Elite champion, Philip Kraus from Appleton, Wisconsin, who Lewis has had the pleasure of commentating on other simulators here in IndyCar competition. 60 laps about to get underway then. 6 races in the ISOWC 2021 season, and the road to 7K starts here in upstate New York. We started with the 50 cars, down now to just 32 left out there on the track. The Porsche safety car down onto the safety of pit lane, the fielding control of Zach Campbell, and let's get green flag racing underway here. As already side by side, here comes the challenge from the 777 of Pedro Sanchez Alpert. They're going 3 wide in the background as well, down in towards turn number 1. Pop of smoke, Zach Campbell all the way into turn 1. We've got a calamity though, Lewis. As you see at the background of the shot, looks like, I think Brian Carey has already spun around.
Oh, and it continues up through the S's, just about everyone involved at the back end. There's 7 or 8 cars done in that. I think that might be the VRS satellite car as well, just up the top of your screen. Plenty of drivers involved in the early stages. That is exactly not how anyone wanted this race to begin. For those that started well, that is put to 0 now.
So now the field will have to get themselves formed up behind the pace cars. Safety cars was one of the key selling points of a championship like this, that additional strategic value. And straight off the bat then, with track temperatures fairly warm and car starting further back on the black mark tyres, safety car out then. Looks like it's Ilka Happela, Pierre Verne that kind of caused the second part of the contact. I believe it was Xavi Ross and Carly Jansen in the Core Sim Racing number 99 that got together first, Lewis, coming through turn 1. So we'll get the replays up on your screen as the leaders are making their way around the boot now to catch up to the pace car. But straight off the bat then, strategy comes into the picture.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Zach Campbell, I am not impressed right now, because the start he had down into T1 cleared Phil Kraus comfortably before they even got to the first apex. Kraus was under pressure from Sanchez Alpert behind and managed to hold it, which was, you know, good effort. To at least make that one stick. We've already got drivers that are effectively out. Pierre Verne, Zuber, Remeniek, Levick and Oscar Mangan all done, at least as far as I can see, which is not the way they wanted to start. not what we wanted down at turn 1, but it's the nature of the first corner at Watkins Glen. It's so wide on entry and it narrows so quickly that if there is an incident happening, it normally carries its way all the way to the start of the S's. For some drivers, this is ideal. You know, you've had that excitement of the start, you've been able to calm down, but now you need to just get yourself into a calmer mindset.
And we'll take a look at the replay. First, you can see Janssen and Ross getting together, and I believe it's the 89 of Yao Vaz. That's a second bit of contact there. Might be with Oscar Mangan. So both of the core sim racing cars around in the early stages. Ilkka Happila stranded at the bottom of the hill there, Lewis. If I'm counting correctly here, we've got 7 cars down on pit road right now.
I think it might be like Balázs Remenyik in one of the Yaz Heat cars towards the back that also sent the core racing car of Oscar Mangan into the barrier on the left-hand side. This is it. So it's just as that rejoin over the grass into the side of the BRS satellite and then just back over. A little bit clumsy on the rejoin. We'll go with that. Not good, but I mean, it's cost a lot of drivers here already in the early stages. When you've got prize money on the table, I'm going to assume some drivers won't be too impressed, but that is exactly why qualifying is so important, because you need to get out of the danger zone, which we've seen back there. Look at how many cars are in pit lane though.
So counting right now, 32 starters, 8 down on pit road. Carl Janssen, Pierre Verne, Peter Zuber, Balázs Remenyik, Frank Levick for the team talent number 13, along with Oscar Mangan, Dean Woods, Xavi Roche, and Ilkka Happila. So 2 of the Yas Heat cars struggling, 2 of the Race Clutch cars struggling, and both of the core sim racing cars down on pit road as we form ourselves up behind the pace car. And you can see now on the left side of your screen the running order. And a reminder as well, RaceSpot.wtf/India if you want to follow along with which car is down on pit road at this point, Lewis. And that might be the best bet for some of these drivers. And at the tail end of the field, Henry Bennett, Brian Carey, and Austin Espety seem to be coming down to try and get some additional fuel in their car.
Yeah, it just saves them from fuel saving. Obviously, a safety car like this, maybe a little bit too early for some to take full advantage strategically. So we're not seeing too much being a bit odd on strategy. But some drivers coming in, obviously, you know, repairing potentially a little bit of damage. Of course, one of the main things with the new damage model, and I know because I've had this happen to me before, and it's very frustrating. When you've got damage, you've got a wing flying all over the place. Those parts that are flying all over the place, as in real life, can affect your car. They can damage your car. You have to be careful to avoid it. So even coming through the calamitous affair like this, you've got to be so very careful. Riding on board with Brian Carey, whoa, all happened around him. I don't think there's any damage on the car. That was well judged.
And that's what thinking about the championship and a 6-race season as well does to you. You know that you can't win the championship down on lap 1, turn 1. You can lose it. Carey started at the tail end, now finds himself 9 positions gained already, edge of the top 20. Be looking forward to the rest of this race with some strategic options open to him. Campbell, Kraus, Albert Hart, and Alanda the top 5 then here, with Traino, Chin, Andra, Soria, and Demerit completing the top 10. Adam Crane and Adam Blocker swapped around on that opening lap. Doesn't look like too many changes so far, Lewis, but based on what we saw on that last restart, it's quite good that we'll be single file down into turn 1 this time around.
Yeah, for Campbell, it's going to be harder for him to jump Kraus in the same way that he did on the initial start. I don't think we're going to see too many chops and changes on that run down into turn 1, but it should be calmer as things stand. Yeah, you said that not too many people made up too much because they didn't have very long before the safety car came out and slowed everything down. But yeah, if I'm Campbell, if I'm Kraus, if I'm Albert, I probably might have been a little bit annoyed about how the opening part of that race was. But now you've got to reset, you've got to get back into the game mentally. You've been driving around slowly for a little bit. It's time to get back up to speed.
Lights are off on the pace car, so I do think we are getting back to cycle through the green flag action once more. It didn't take long for the first caution of the 2021 ISOWC season to come out, but still at the front, it's Campbell, it's Kraus, it's the 777 of Pedro Albert. What can Johan Harth do as well in the 90 machine? The iRacing Rallycross World Champion, very much proving he is a man of many talents. Porsche safety car back down onto the safety of pit lane, leaving the green flag in the hands of Barney the flagman. Much more orderly start at the front, but now you see Yas Heat looking to the inside of one of the Simsa esports machines across the start-finish line, Lewis. As we come down into turn 1, they all are still using the runoff area, but this time it's a little bit cleaner, and as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, drivers getting onto the button.
Yeah, no surprise that Campbell's on it. I think the real mover at the moment would be on the back of Phil Krause. You've got Pedro Sanchez Albert a little bit ahead of this, riding on board with Valtteri Alander into the inner loop. They're all holding position presently and keeping themselves nice and clean on that run through. I think it was Josh Ladd who was trying to make a move down in T1 in that Yas Heat car. Wasn't able to, I don't think he was able to secure it. I guess it might have been on Adam Blocker, but either way, looking pretty aggressive. No surprise to see them attacking in the early stages, but everyone up front being a bit more patient and mindful.
Got a great look there at Valtteri Alander. Look at focus on his face, and I'm sure we'll get to see that across the next 50-odd laps or so. Krause is keeping Campbell very honest. He was flying in all of the free practice sessions, but Zach Campbell, I don't think, was so confident in his race pace, Lewis. I mean, there's so much setup development that's going into the season for all of the teams. Campbell was very confident about qualifying and came out in his favor. Now has to defend, though, that 19 machine, looking good in race trim.
Yeah, Krause looking pretty fast and pacey. He's got a bit of experience in these type of cars, does a fair amount of open wheel racing elsewhere in sim racing and other simulators, and he's a young man, a lot of talent, and a driver who is certainly moving forward, as is with Zach Campbell. Quite a lot of these drivers that haven't been around for too long and suddenly have jumped onto the screen. Looking backwards from Zach Campbell, you can see Krause, Albert, Half and Alander. Of course, Brandon Traynor, how much experience has he got in this type of car in open wheelers? Whoa, this is chaotic.
And that's Andre trying to get around the outside of the 9. He gets on through, but Traynor defends from Chin. That forces him off the track at the bus stop. Can he avoid the wall? No, he doesn't. Rejoins into the middle of the track. Somehow gets away with that one. Adam Blocker would have had his heart in his mouth, but Brandon Traynor falls to the rear end of this field, Lewis.
Yeah, we'll need to take a second look at that and see what happened, but absolutely catapulted into the sky, courtesy of that very, very bumpy grass out there. It's always what happens if you cut it across. Yellow flag and caution out again, courtesy of that. Brandon Traynor was just talking up his experience, just overdid it a little bit whilst battling into the inner loop, and around he went.
Oh, and he clatters the curb on the inside. I wonder if there's the slightest of touches with Andre there. And, well, he'll be, I'm sure, pretty glad he's not in the virtual reality goggles there, Lewis, because that would have been a bit of an interesting ride.
Scary, scary stuff. That is not what you want to be a part of. I mean, especially if you've got a direct drive wheel as well. That is going to hurt. And for Brandon Traynor, yeah, I'm not... My thumbs would be a little bit cooling out. I hope he let go of the wheel if he has got a DD. Not a good one. It's that contact with the wall there that just catapults front. And then you've got the escape road there, and yeah, all just falls apart very, very quickly. Such a shame. Running up in 7th place was actually looking pretty decent at the time, but alas, no more.
And you'll see in just a second's time, the new damage model starts to throw bits and bobs of the car around to the competitors as well. Blocker, I think, had a good view of that. Once more, formed up behind the safety car then. Second time in just the opening 6 laps. Be hoping, I think, Lewis, that we can get into a bit of a green flag run here, because there is a lot of strategy that will play out as well, because 2-tire compounds are required to be used. And with the track temperatures beginning to start falling here, it'll be interesting to see. On board with Alexander Walton, the German, you can see there goes the debris that I was talking about.
Well, I'm pretty sure some of the drivers would have picked up a little bit of that debris even further back from this, because there was an awful lot of it from that. No surprise that there was a requirement for the pace car to come back out again. Hopefully, yeah, we get a bit of a cleaner run. That said, with this happening just a little bit later, I know it's obviously only a couple of laps, but still, this is approaching a time where like a pace car can affect your strategy properly. Obviously, in the early stages, after only a lap, maybe stick a little bit extra, but you've not burnt that much over the first lap or two, right? So you've not got that much room to stick more fuel in. But for this, all this is doing at the moment in the early stages is alleviating anyone's requirement to fuel save to meet strategy. We were talking before that it was sort of between 14 and 17 laps expecting for a stint, obviously a 60-lap race. potentials as to how that unfolds strategy-wise, and you don't want to come into the pit lane that much. So, you know, maybe this will just make things a little bit easier to extend that stint and to push it 100% all the way through.
And the great thing, Lewis, that I love about the entry list for this series is you've got your traditional iRacing IndyCar staples, the likes of Treno, the likes of Blocker and Bennett, etc., etc. Then you've got this new wave of, includes some former iRacing World Championship competitors, but it's not just them. You've got the likes of Marcus Deck, who represents RLR Abruzzi Esports. You've got the COVID driver of Valtteri Alander, who's jumped into the IndyCar. Then you've got Pedro Sanchez, who's up there in third position as well. Multi-talented driver. Taking a look at the info sheet that he provided to us, he's got victories at the national level across of so many different cars. The Indy car, the Lotus 79, the LMP1 car. It's great to see a multi-dimensional driver coming into the series and running up there at the front very early on.
This is where you make a name for yourself, though, is, you know, you've got a name from racing and all these other little things. You're an up-and-coming talent, all pitting in the background. That's Josh Chin into the pit lane from inside the top 10. There's a couple that are biting. Adam Blocker as well comes down pit road as well, biting from just outside of the top 10. Not a surprise to see people biting, but, you know, only one or two. That's interesting. Yeah, this thing though, this is the time that you make a name for yourself in a series like this. This is where you push yourself forward. This is where you get among the likes of Zach Campbell, of Johan Hart as well. You become a part of that side of the iRacing competition system, and then you're a name that you're remembered. You're almost questioned when people join a server and they say, "Oh, that's him from that series. I know them."
Joshua Chin, 13 seconds stationary, so implies at least a little bit of damage to the private label Team Hype Delara IR18. The outfit that's had a smashing start to the 2021 Lionheart IndyCar Series campaign. Jason Brophy and Connor Harrington not in action on track today, but they are in the ear of the King of Chins himself. Taking a look at the face there, Lewis, it's not boredom, it's confusion, it's concern, it's a malaise of all these different emotions right now. Ultimately, strategy is very difficult for these drivers to figure out by themselves.
Why they've all got, well, not all, but most of them tend to have spotters and stuff, giving them a little bit of information and trying to pass on a little bit. You know, you're allowed to join the server as a spotter to sort of help out and stuff. Connor Harrington behind the scenes at the moment for Josh Chin, and there's a whole host of people behind the scenes assisting people through this, because driving's one thing and it's fine in a sprint race, 15 minutes, drive yourself, get out there and do what you can, whereas in this kind of level you need someone to be filling in the picture for you, because out there it is really complicated to know when you should take tyres, when you should take fuel, whether pitting's worth it, what times the car's doing behind, how do I jump up and try and get something. I like the strategy call, I like the aggression, because it's something that can work out a little bit later in the race.
Lights are off on the pace car right now, so we will get back to the action this time around. Dean Woods, I think, has been given the first of our penalties, incident responsibility for what we saw down in towards turn one. There is a lot of different things for race control to take a look at, and if you want to follow along with the live updates, you can either join the ISOWC Discord by visiting racespot.wtf/ISOWC, or head your way on over to the ISOWC website, isowc.org, where you can see the live race control update. Still at the front, it will be Campbell and Kraus, but now we have 16th on back, Lewis, that have come down onto pit road.
Yeah, those will be looking to march a little bit forward, a bit fresher tyres, but they've got a little bit of a heavier car as well, a few laps extra fuel compared to where we are. Zach Campbell still on the front, still Phil Kraft behind. Kraus's starts in the last couple have not been good enough. See if he can make something stick this time. They've got a car between them.
I believe that's Oscar Mangan, so lap traffic is going to pull to the side of the track, come down onto pit road as well, make life very easy as for the third time today we get back underway, and Philip Kraus has to get on the button to defend from the 777 behind him. Down into turn one, Henry Bennett tries to get a move done on Andreas Eek in the 76. We jump on board with the iRacing Rallycross World Champion Johan Hart, as the Frenchman up the hill here, Lewis, in fourth position.
Yeah, talking of multi-talented driver, none really more so on the grid than Johan Hart has proved himself in a whole host of categories, but he's under an awful lot of pressure behind. But this is where some drivers behind, he's under pressure from Alander behind, who's just lifted out coming into the inner loop. Smart move, saving fuel, and that's what we're going to see some of these drivers doing, potentially not making overtakes. Oh, we've got carnage again! Carnage again, Adam Crane, the number 92 as well of Janssen. This is carnage once again, and the caution is back out.
And so we're not even 10 laps into the 2021 season, and the caution flies for the third time today. Now we are down from our 32 starters. We might be looking at just 20 cars without any sort of damage. It was Adam Crane and I believe Andres Eek, Henry Bennett, Carly Janssen. The names go on and on. Let's see if we can get the RaceSpotTV replay up once more, Lewis. But the bus stop chicane, it is a very high commitment corner. The curves can catch you out, and clearly drivers struggling early in this race.
I think race control might be on some of these drivers, giving them a bit of a slap if we don't start tidying this up. The incident happened ahead before Carl Janssen came through. Let's have a look as we run through the inner loop. So darting and weaving across, and oh, it's contact on the back. Oh, and then straight into the racing line. Just nothing that can be done from Adam Crane's point of view. Maybe a little bit slow on the exit of the inner loop and just pushing hard in the early stages. Got hit from, I believe it's one of the Yaz Heat cars, and yeah, not good. I think it might have been Vaz behind.
Getting word as well that Joshua Chin somehow managed to scrape his way on through that one. So maybe we can try and get some more replays, but here we go. This is a great look with the King of Chins. A number 93 car checks up just in time, goes through some of the debris as well. A bit of a hop, skip and a jump there, but there'll be no harm, no foul for the number 93.
I think the front wing might have taken a bit of a whack in all that, not only from the debris, but also from the rejoin, because it just clipped a little bit of the grass where it bottomed out on some of the tarmac as they run into the carousel. And yeah, I think it might have just loosened the front, although we'll take a look at that. Oh, great slow-mo, by the way.
Our producer Hugo Luis is at least having some fun during these caution periods. Not 10 laps into this race yet. I would love to see some strategy starts to play itself out. Zach Campbell, the question becomes, Lewis, at what point is he going to have to come down onto pit road? The fuel window between 14 and 17 laps. You can't save enough to do an extra 5 here at a track where you're almost full throttle for 60+% of the lap. But for Zach Campbell, he will be starting to near his pit stop window. I'm not sure how he'll approach this portion of the race, though.
Well, I mean, whilst you're under safety car and stuff, whilst you're going slow, you can really take your time. You'll see them all being very, very careful on the fuel mileage when they're under the yellow flag. Oh, Zuba just darting his way through. That was, I was going to say cautious from the race clutch driver, but played his cards right and got through it. At least what we can see is quite cleanly. But yeah, for these drivers, they're going to be saving an awful lot, like so much. I don't even know the maths behind it when it comes to how much further you can go behind a pace car, because you can extend your fuel mileage. I'm pretty sure it was like 3 or 4 times realistically if you're driving right and being careful. They will be going a lot farther. So every lap they're behind it, they're saving so much fuel, and they're being careful. I mean, that pit window is going to be massively extended.
The reports keep on coming for race control, so they are busy sorting things out. We'll take a look at the static cams. Speed and velocity from Crane into the wall was just ridiculously high. Nowhere for the core sim racing car to really go. Bennett loses his front wing as well. All sorts of chaos and carnage. Campbell, though, stays out as the pace car comes across the line to complete lap 9 out of 60. The month of May, Lewis, let's kind of maybe look forward to what we've got in front of us, as it does look like strategy is going to be a factor. Demerit leads Josh Ladd and Henry Bennett down onto pit road. Here comes, I think, Brandon Traino as well, who was back out there and circulating. But month of May, always a busy time here on RaceSpotTV. Next weekend, the Fixed 500, the second annual one there. Sage Karam winning 12 months ago. Can he come back and defend his crown? But 7 days after that, the 12th annual iRacing Indy 500, Brandon Traino tries to make history, going 3 times back-to-back.
A circuit he obviously goes very well at the Brickyard. It's one of the greatest pleasures to race around there in oval racing in these cars. It's high commitment at all times. I mean, you were telling me how hard it is to qualify around there, one of the hardest things that you can do. Then you have to do that across the race, battling with everyone. Strategy as well. What a fantastic couple of weeks of racing it really is. And then, you know, we get to have our own little go right at the end of the season as well. And what a way to cap it off.
And just a reminder as well that if you're not already part of the iRacing service, head on over to iRacing.com, because every day is race day. Start your iRacing career today. You're talking about the difficulties of qualifying at the Brickyard. I mean, I went down, Lewis. Let's just kind of make this clear for those watching. I started last year's qualifying process as an A-class oval racer. By the time I finished 7 days, or I guess it's 5 days of qualifying attempts, I was now a B-class license, and I think I actually got demoted down to C-class the following season as well. So it is so difficult, not just making sure you're perfect on all of the turn-in points, because effectively what you're doing is nailing 16 different corners, because every time you mess up one different corner, it will offset the corresponding ones after that. But Zach Campbell agrees with me as well, says it's the hardest thing he's ever had to do on the sim. And the advantage, or one of the cool things that we'll get to do in the ISOWC 500, Lewis, is damage car policies. You don't get unlimited, you know, fast repairs, damage repairs. You have to start thinking about your machine. Yeah,
which that applies its own different level of difficulty to it, because you're not only do you have to be perfect, but you've got to think long game as well in it. And yeah, for some drivers, you know, you can't just hit the in that kind of qualifying, you can't just hit the escape key and just have another go. It's all about nailing it across all 4 of those laps. And you're saying, like, there, when we get to that point, it's so difficult to do. Like, because like you say, if you mess up turn 1, lap 1, might as well just throw the entire thing in the bin. Pointless. Try again, because it's so difficult. Refocusing back to today, though, some strategy being thrown out into it. Just wanted to note, by the way, it was not Yao Vaz that was the driver that was involved in that incident with Adam Crane. It was his teammate Josh Ladd. So the 2 Yazheat drivers, both a part of that incident. And look at the tyres, very different on this restart.
Top 10 all had to start on the compound. They qualified, but because of all the chaos, now Yao Vaz up into 8th, the first of the cars on the black mark tyres. Campbell holds the field, causes a bit of confusion, but back underway to start lap number 11 out of 60 as side-by-side Albert tries to get up into 2nd. Does that open the door for Johan Hoff up the hill through the S's? Not able to get the run. Here comes Adam Blocker, though, trying to get on pass. Yao Valverde and Austin Espiti in front of them. No one using their push-to-passes just yet, Lewis. I think they're a bit concerned. We'll get straight back under yellow flag conditions.
Yeah, I think some of these drivers, we just need to play the long game here and get some decent laps under our way. Valtteri Alander was once again very close to the back of Johan Hart, but has no interest in going for a move at the moment. Is just looking to save fuel behind the Rallycross champion and just play the long game in that sense. Zach Campbell, though, instantly under an awful lot of pressure from Phil Krause, was able to withstand it over the couple of laps before he went under caution the last few times. However, now, hopefully, going for a longer run is now Krause's time to make a move. If not, he's worried about the next caution and try and get it done before that comes out.
You can see Brian Carey on the button down the short straightaway in towards the heel. He's gotten to pass Alexander Walton in the 172. There you can see through the left-hand sweeper of turn 9 back on to the NASCAR Cup layout that the NASCAR Cup machineries thunder their way around. Very much an oval kind of a road course experience. The Canadian finds himself up 20 positions, Lewis. We saw on the start the 79 car almost crawling to a stop trying to get through the carnage. Now looks like he might be on for a top 10 finish.
Played cards really well on lap 1, and so far seems to be continuing in that sort of mindset. Johan Hart on the push to pass behind Albert as well as we focus towards the front of the field. Is there going to be a move here into the inner loop? He's got to go the long way around. I'm not fancying that, though. Oh, he's going to have to back out of it. There was no way round when you're that close.
The 77 of Alander right there as well. First green flag lap officially complete. Campbell now 0.8 of a second clear from Krause out front, with Albert dropping back and further 0.8 as well. Down in towards the boot they will work. Top 10 separated by just 5 seconds. Campbell is going to have to take the next couple of laps here, Lewis. Get the most out of his tires, because he will be down onto pit road in just a couple extra laps.
Yeah, as much as they've extended that pit sequence a fair while, that pit lane run is coming closer. They're starting to pull away as there's hard battling as well. Sanders has got by Vaz as well. Domingo past Walton. Walton's dropping backwards quite a lot here on this start as he's battling it out with Domingo for 13th position. Still side by side the background as they head out of the Grand Prix loop. Tough battling, but yeah, it seems like Walton is struggling right now.
Walton's on the black mark tyres, so the car's on the alternate choice, which gives you a bit more grip but does wear increasingly fast. You can see Espiti and Valverde on the button down across the pit straight. They almost make it 3 wide, but the 381 has to tuck in behind his teammate for now. Espiti slots on through, and now Valverde back onto the button, looking to try and get to the inside up through the S's. Can Blocker follow him as well? Clearly what we're seeing though, Lewis, is on these race restarts, the black tyres take a couple of laps to come into their peak window.
Yeah, they've got to get those temperatures up, and it's so difficult from crawling around for ages. Adam Blocker trying to get a couple of moves as well, not able to make the second one, as he was also trying to get by Espiti, and no way through. But Adam Blocker marching forward, a driver that we were expected to do so, did not qualify well today, but seems to have decent race pace, having been in the pit lane already, marching forwards.
Back out front though, 0.8 of a second between Kraus and Campbell still, as Pedro Sanchez Albert falls 1.4 seconds behind. It's Johan Harp up into the podium position, slinging a move down the inside of turn 8. Can Alander follow him as well, already setting up out of turn 9. Sanchez was very quick in qualifying, very quick in the early stages, Lewis, but has been caught napping on this race restart.
Yeah, this didn't seem to have the pace, maybe a bit of a lack of experience. Johan Harp didn't need a second invitation, got it done. Coming down into the heel, fastest lap of the race goes the way of Zach Campbell with all of that clean air. No real surprise. Phil Kraus trying to match him on pace. There's a couple of tenths difference between the two, but Campbell is in control right now. But with half released from Albert, Valtteri Alander is now on the back, and as much as he saved fuel behind Johan Harp, I don't think he's going to be so inclined to do the same thing to Albert as well.
I think Andra's trying to look around the outside of the 77. Great look from the rearward shot from Albert, and you can see Sly Andra up into the 5th position. The last remaining car for the VRS Satellite Racing team, Alex Ellis, who has Indy Lights experience for Sam Schmidt a couple of decades ago, didn't qualify into this race. We saw Adam Crane getting caught up in that most recent caution. Sly Andra then top 5. Let's see what he can do from here. Jose Soria, by the way, as well. We saw Xavi Ross for the Auris Racing team having a couple of issues as well. Soria finds himself in 7th. Wonderful look for him, Lewis, as side by side they work into turn 8 once more.
Yeah, Lander down the inside. He relinquished that position up into the bus stop, and threw my opinion out the window that he was eyeing his way even further forward past Albert, and dropped down past Andra. But Valtteri Alander, I still think he's got better pace than what he's showing right now, because he seemed to show it when he was keeping up with the top lot a little bit earlier, but alas, clearly not the case, as he's dropped down now to 6th place and is under a lot of pressure as well from Soria behind. Albert's pace seems to have gone back to him a little bit as he's cleared away from Andra behind, so looking a little bit more rosy for Albert.
Track conditions, 37 degrees track temperature. That will vary, but you can see there's a lot of cloud cover here in upstate New York here today, as both Andra and Alander are on the button. A shout out to ATVO, Nick Thyssen, Simon Grossman and Kevin Niatola for all of their hard work on our 2021 graphics overlay. Looking splendid with custom numbers, push to pass graphics, etc, etc. Back to the edge of the top 10 though. Yao Vaz, a former iRacing World Championship competitor, back in the open wheel days, defending from Graham Sanders for the Geodesic Racing team. We've seen Sanders on a Monday night in the IndyCar Open Championship on a number of occasions, Lewis. He won at, well, my favorite track of them all, the Green Hell. Looking good for him as well in a very strong field.
Push to pass for Valtteri Alander as well, as he's got back up inside the top 5, so quite a few changes as we get some green flag racing properly underway here in the season opener. A bit of a change for position as yet another position is gained for Kerry. It was Sanders dropping back behind. And yeah, so I think he's had a bit of an issue there as Sanders, because also Chin has also got through, is marching his way forward after being involved quite close to that action pack that we saw coming through the exit of the inner loop when the last caution came out. So clearly a lot of pace behind Chin's car. We saw him qualify very well and seemingly marching back forward again.
Black tyres, I think the name of the game for some of these cars is Orlando once more onto the button, getting past Pedro Sanchez-Alpert, who's dropped out almost to the top 5 now. He'll have to watch for Cy Andra in his rearview mirrors, but Andra defends from Jose Oria down into the bus stop chicane, holds on for now, and now Ramez Azam trying to get on the button as well. Black tyres, that's what I was just about to say here, Lewis. You've got the top 7 cars all on the reds, and 8th, 9th, and 10th, they're on the black compounds with Brian Carey then rocketing his way up on the reds. So split strategies now, and as we work lap 16, Zach Campbell should be down onto pit road in just a couple of laps. The question is, does he take the reds? Does he take the blacks?
Yeah, he's been saving fuel, obviously, behind the pace cars and stuff, but that pit window is getting closer and closer. At the moment, they're just trying to push it as far into the distance as possible. They know they've got to take the black tyres at some point throughout this race. It's just about pushing it off to when some drivers will want to get it out of the way early so they can go on the attack throughout the rest of the race. I don't think it's going to be this lap for Zach Campbell, certainly isn't. For these drivers, though, I'd want to be on the softest compound tyre for as long as possible and then take the damage at the end, because you can always defend, you can always play looking backwards towards the end of the race. It's much as it's much more fun to go on the attack late in the race. Sometimes it's not as handy when it comes to the result of the checkered flag.
2.2, the gap between Campbell and Kraus, as here comes the Frenchman well and truly in the draft, and Phil Kraus is going to pull to the outside of the track here, Lewis, make things very easy. It's an Apex Racing Team 1 and 2. That
was really, really tight cut back in from Johan Harth, and Phil Kraus did hear him in game, just giving a little bit of a call to Johan Harth, so a little bit of communication between the two just to allow things to unfold in a clean manner, because those things with a lack of communication can go sad very, very quickly. For the Apex Race Team, though, things are looking great. If I'm Phil Kraus, I'm not worried too much necessarily about dropping away from Johan Harth, because you know his pace has been quite good. I am more worried about Valtteri Alander, who has got by Albert behind, said that he had better pace. Look at him closing. He's been looking after his tyres, fuel or whatever, but his heat is right there.
And we're approaching that point in the run now where the red stocks just burn off, become slightly more difficult to keep underneath you, and you can see Joshua Chin now. I think that's in front of Alander. No, excuse me. That I don't think is Joshua Chin. That's a lapped car. As here comes Johan Harth down onto pit road. So the first of the cars to blink leaves his teammate out front, still by himself. Lap 18 out of 60, though, here, Lewis. He will need at least 2 more stops till the end.
Yeah, there's no way. As much as the final stop might be a little bit shorter, we're expecting this to be a 3-stop race, courtesy of that window. 14 to 17 laps was the expectation. Of course, the pace car being out for a lot of the opening part of the race has assisted things in that sense. Valtteri Alander up into second position now, as he's got by Phil Kraus going down into the inner loop. Soft tyres once again for Johan Harth, and he'll go on the attack once more.
Interesting call there. As you see, there is Alander now up into second position, net third, with Harth having come down onto pit road. Here comes Joshua Chin, or something happened to the king of chins. He's straight down onto pit road, so I'm not sure if there was some kind of technical issue there, but the number 93 car has had another issue.
What's happened to Zach Campbell? What's happened to Zach Campbell? We just saw him come through shot there. What? He's got a no front wing on a part of it. Oh my goodness, what has happened to our race leader?
Drama then. He wanted the championship. That was the only thing on his mind. Heading through the toe at turn 7, Zach Campbell has gone too deep under the brakes, lost the rear end of the car, and there is damage on the 15. Watch the onboard shot here as the hands snap to the side as he tries to hang on to the number 15 machine, and there is significant steering damage to that car as he's holding up one of the Simsa Esports machines down onto pit road, and Campbell will be there for several more minutes.
Yeah, it's not the wing damage that I'm worried about. It's the suspension damage. He is going to be in pit road for a long time. That is a sad moment for Zach Campbell, the favourite of the day, under absolutely no pressure. We know the young man's got an awful lot of talent. Unfortunately, just pushing it a little bit too far going into the toe, and away he goes down the road. You can see the disappointment on his face. That's sad.
And so early in the season, adversity for the young Georgian. How can he bounce back? We saw Philip Kraus was down on pit road. You can see the concern and the frustration on the face of Zach Campbell as his car gets repaired by his team on pit road. Johan Harth on the button as he tries to now take advantage of this situation. The Frenchman will be the biggest winner, Lewis, if he can cycle himself back to the front.
Yeah, of course, fresh tyres right now. He's going to be running way, way quicker than those that are staying out on their worn soft tyres. So he's going to be running faster than Valtteri Lander, but he's got traffic, and that's the real issue here for Johan Harth. And it's going to be playing into the hands of everyone else. It is presently Phil Kraus out ahead after his stop as well, so the traffic is obviously one that he's supposed to be battling with, but he got by Phil Kraus not too long ago, and obviously through some of the traffic and coming back through the order, Kraus has got back ahead of him. This should be a fairly easy move, and Kraus doesn't fight it, and there we go, the position goes back the way of Johan Harth.
You know what happened there, Lewis? Harth spent 10 seconds total stationary on pit road. Kraus 8.7, so 1.3 seconds gained just in the pit stall itself. Here comes the 777, though, very impressive in qualifying. And here comes as well Graham Saunders in the 100 machine. Austin Espety on the button as he extends the fuel window slightly further, working 1/3 race distance. Here is Espety with Blocker right on his tail. The Canadian Brian Carey in close pursuit as well. And none of these cars have come down onto pit road under green flag conditions, Lewis, but all of them have cycled through under the cautions.
Look at how much Espety was using the push to pass to keep Adam Blocker at bay as well. Was really pushing it to the very limit. Oh, there we go. There's Zach Campbell. I was a bit worried that something else had happened to him. Still got some damage on the car. He's just going to try and bring it round to get to the checkered flag. It is going to be a long afternoon. You can see how much damage. I think he's going to pull off and get a tow maybe, or just really keep out of the way. I think it's just being really, really smart about this. Unfortunately, going to be a long and slow afternoon for our pole sitter.
And Campbell's going to now get out into the outside wall. No. I think he was trying to avoid towing back onto pit road, which might bring out a safety car. Campbell, I think, is requesting permission as a lander down onto pit road now. So pit road is well and truly going to be a busy place. We will check in with Zach Campbell as he requests the tow. Day done for the pole position sitter then, Lewis. And what a shame in his championship aspirations.
Valtteri Lander, though, look at how far he went on the fuel. I said he was saving when he was on the back end of the top lot. He was saving fuel really, really nicely whilst battling and playing a longer game, getting a better drink of water as well. Hydration is key, even in sim racing. But yeah, interesting to see him extend the fuel. Interesting as well to see him come out on those black tyres.
Where is Harth in comparison? Right behind, so a Lander might have cycled back into the net race lead. The Finnish driver for Kova Esports. Well, what can he do from here? It's Harth that's got the faster tyre. He's got those tyres into the optimal window as well, down into the inner loop. Harth already up to racing speed. The 77 trying to do the same as well. Lap 21 out of 60 then. A Lander might be in a situation here, Lewis, if he can eke out the window to make sure he spends less time on pit road than the Frenchman. I think that's what he's thinking about now as he goes to the inside, trying to defend from the 90.
This is a critical point of the race for Valtteri Lander. Every single lap he can keep Johan Harth at bay is laps that he will not need to fight back later in the race. I think it's almost inevitable that Johan Harth will be able to get by at some point on those red wall tyres, but every lap that passes will just make it a little bit easier. Valtteri Lander, though, he is still going to be committed around the outside at the heel, up towards the top end of the Grand Prix loop. And once again, Valtteri Lander, I thought he was going to let Johan Harth through then and not really fight it too hard. That was not the case.
You can't do that, I think, if you're a Lander here, because we got set slightly wide through the penultimate corner. The Frenchman supremely confident on the red mark tyres and up into the race lead as a Lander tries to defend. You can see a slight chuckle there from the 77. He's, I think, enjoying this fun battle, but they will switch around now, Lewis, in the closing stages of this race. Harth will come on to the primary tyre. A Lander will be the one on the red mark tyre. That will mean, as the track conditions continue to fall, still 37 degrees Celsius out on track, but that should fall to about 33 or 34 once we get to the end of this race. That will mean those red tyres last just that little bit longer.
Valtteri Lander did have a bit of fun there, didn't he? He was pushing it as hard as he could to try and keep ahead of Johan Harth, but yeah, I think he knows that was going to be a battle that was going to be lost at some point, and no point in losing the entire race over it by pushing a little bit too hard. And the 77 did lose the position to Johan Haaf. It was really important for Haaf to get through because, yeah, you're right, it's going to switch around at some point in this race as they have to take different compounds a bit later on, and so the advantage will swing one way and swing the other. And to be fair, if you look at Valtteri Alander on those soft tyres, on the red wall tyres in that first stint, he was so good later in that stint. He was so very, very strong, and that's what put him back out in front of Johan Haaf. And so in that sense, he's going to be looking pretty before we get to that checkered flag, as long as he can keep as close as possible to Johan Haaf.
Well, let's play out the strategy cycle here then, Lewis, because it does look, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, knocking on all the wood around me, we can stay green until the end of this race, I think. I think they've now got it out of their systems. Those early season jitters got their first crashes out of the way. 3 cautions in the first 10 laps. It's been some incredible wheel-to-wheel stuff since then, but strategy will play a factor. Manuel Domingo leads the race right now. Will come down onto pit road in just a couple of laps. He might, Lewis, be able to go with just one more stop after that.
Yeah, potentially here's Phil Kraus on the push to pass to try and get by Syandra as well, heading up into the bus stop, but don't think it's going to be... Oh, sorry, no, it's not. It's even behind that. Phil Kraus has got by, but yeah, they're switching positions left and right because they need to make that move stick. And getting on the push to pass now might be the strategy to work their way up.
Dak Campbell is back out on track in 23rd position right now, so he's just trying to recover whatever he can. It's not a long 6-race season, it's a short 6-race season that feels long, Lewis, because no drop weeks means if you don't qualify for a race, if you don't score the points that you think you deserve for the preparation that you've put in, you put yourself in a hole that you don't have much time to climb back out of.
Points are critical. Getting some points on the board is going to be really, really important, even if it's 5, 6, 7, whatever it is. So Zach Campbell just out on track, just trying to get to the checkered flag. He's not going to be racing anyone. I'm sure he'll be keeping out of the way as best as possible and just get some points on the board because, yeah, there is no drop scores. There's none of that. It is whatever points you score across the season are the points that you take to the season finale, and it's going to be critical, those points that they can grab.
There is some active conversation, Lewis, in the session chat right now. Everyone who didn't make it through qualifying into the race, cheering on their teammates and discussing the strategy as well. We are working lap 24 out of 60, and the hypothesis, from the Canadian Andrew Kinsella, who was very close to making it into the field here today, is any car that pits from this lap forward can make it on one more stop. So that means Manuel Domingo through to Henry Bennett should be good to the end of the race. Domingo has been out on track for 18 laps. Meanwhile, Christopher Demerit, Henry Bennett, they've been out there for 14 laps so far. They'll find themselves with the shortest pit stop at the closing stages of the race.
Yeah, and that could be really, really important to move their way up. I'm not 100% sure if it will translate its way into a potential race victory, but who knows? Depends what you've got out of the way in the early stages and how things are looking. There we go into the pit lane for Domingo. Espity, I think, is going to stay out in this scenario. Yeah, and he is going to take the lead of the race as Alan Blocker will move up into second place. So no one else biting with Domingo, but Domingo in anyway and looks to try and get the checkered flag from one stop past this point.
The IGPS champion in Season 3 of 2018, as well as the 2019 Formula Renault 3.5 Season 3 champion, onto pit road for his first green flag stop on the day. Radical's online track racer, such a historic name in sim racing. You can also see from the steering wheel, the third box from the left-hand side, Domingo has used none of his push to passes so far in this race. Very much with one eye on the field, cycles back out into net 17th position. 2.8 seconds, to Graham Saunders down the road. Espity now the new race leader with Adam Blocker and Brian Carey second and third. Gal Valverde, Christopher Demerit and Henry Bennett complete the top 6 cars who have not yet come down to pit road, and I do believe Austin Espity is coming down this time around.
Yeah, I believe so as well. I was just going to say one thing when it comes to the drivers that will circle out being the race leader. We'll look at those gaps on the left-hand side. Despite the tyre differential between Valtteri Alander and Johan Haaf, that gap has not gone out. It's 3/10 between them, and the further they go into the stint, obviously those red tyres are going to drop off a little bit. Valtteri Alander's got those black wall tyres up to temperature and is looking pretty strong at the moment. As entering the pit lane, our race leader, SPT Adam Blocker, assumes the head of the field after going very counter to strategy. Not a great qualifying, but then had to run it differently, courtesy of the pace cars and whatever that came out through the cautions. Looking fairly strong at the moment, and his pit stop's going to be a little bit shorter later on.
Crucial thing you saw there from Austin Espity, not using too many pit boxes, getting in and getting out of his stall. That's something that the drivers have been warned about. You get to use 3 boxes entering and exiting your stall. Let's pick up, by the way, the battle for 6, 7, and 8. Cy down the inside of Phil Kraus, who's going to lose out as well to the 255 as Jose Soria looks to the inside here into the inner loop. And Philip Kraus at one point running in 2nd position now. Lewis finds himself in net 5th position.
Yeah, I'm not sure just how he's playing it, whether it's the long game or what, but just being wrong-footed there and dropping a couple of positions, certainly not what you'd want. And in the tight battlefield, if you're going to lose one position, you only want to lose one, not 2. Either way, for Phil Kraus, dropped down to 8th place. There's a lot of experience elsewhere in sim racing. I'm not 100% sure how much experience he's got in these cars. Obviously has driven them a fair amount, but still playing his cards right in this scenario could involve dropping backwards a little bit on the black wall tyres and, just trying to play the longer game.
Let's see how the source cycles out then. Blocker locks up the brakes down onto pit road. He's followed in by Demerit and followed in by Bennett as well. Wasn't sure if the 144 and the 007 would try and extend this slightly further. They will tuck into the draft of the Ilmore engineer Adam Blocker, who makes his way onto pit road for the penultimate time today. Demerit as well into his box. Wonderful look at the car up on its jacks. 4 fresh tires and a full tank of fuel as he rolls in 11th position.
Oh, sorry, if we go to the race lead, I believe Valtteri Alander's looking for something here as he's trying to make it stick. Did not make it. Johan Hart, though, under so much pressure as they've hit the front once again. Johan Hart has got nowhere to run and hide. Seems his tyres are going off here.
Oh, something's happened to Ramez Azam through the inner loop in the Simsa Esports machine. Now down to 8th, and he'll fall down another couple of positions as well. Still very close for the race lead. Azam has significant damage, but should be able to nurse that car back down onto pit road, so we should stay green as we near the halfway point of this race. Oh, look at the RaceSpotTV replay backing up into the tire barrier, and you can see that rear wing is dangling around for the Canadian.
Yeah, that is not great. Obviously going to be a little bit of rear wheel going off on the toe, which is exceptionally difficult to drive it. If the front wheel's bent, it's kind of fine. It's a bit more predictable. If the rear end's bent, that's where things can be very, very hard indeed, because the faster you go, the more unstable it gets. Is dropping into pit lane with the teammate of Johan Hart. I think it might have just cost him the lead, as Valtteri Alander for Kova should get this done into T1.
The Finnish driver down into the race lead as we complete lap number 27, almost halfway through this race. And now on the button as well. What can he do with the primary tire? It does look as though he's the master of the tire life here today, Lewis. Track temperature still 34 degrees Celsius.
Back on the push to pass as well. Valtteri Alander instantly trying to pull out from Hart and try and build that gap. It's not only extending those red wall tyres that works out for him, which normally might be a sense of not pushing the tyres hard enough, which then means that your tyres are colder, they're more within their temperature window on the soft tyre. Some means that some drivers may find it harder to keep up with the hard tyres because you struggle to get them up to temperature. Absolutely not a problem for Alander, who is very much in control of his tyres. That was a shame from Johan Hart, not working out at all for the Apex Racing team, and that really did cost him.
Brandon Treno, I'm sure he did not mean to check up his own teammate, but the good news is, Lewis, team orders. It's always such a controversial topic, no matter which form of motorsports you refer to it in. But when you have team orders like this, it's always good when it affects your own teammate rather than the car behind. There you can see it was Treno just trying to come down onto pit road, and the Frenchman nowhere to go. He loses the race lead to the 77 car. As we jump back to live pictures, Henry Bennett has cycled on through in front of Christopher Demerit. So 2 cars that we think should be good to the end, along with Adam Blocker. So Blocker's in 10th, Brian Carey, his teammate, in 11th. with Henry Bennett, the third of the Powerslide drivers, in 12th position. Powerslide find themselves in a strategy position, Lewis, that they always are comfortable putting themselves in.
Yeah, there are some teams that like, playing the strategy a bit weird, a bit wonderful. That's why they like cautions. Some teams at the moment will love it if a caution comes out, because they're quick at adapting, they're quick on their feet, they're quick at deciding what to do. Other teams, not so much. Domingo's got by Sanders as well behind this battle as we're looking backwards from Phil Kraus. Soria trying to apply pressure, Albert as well. The two cars behind Kraus's pace on these hard tyres not looking as pleasant as Valtteri Alander's at the moment. Seems to be struggling, as we saw quite a lot of drivers do in the early stages.
Well, Kraus has also been a bit more wheel-to-wheel than some of his other competitors. Alander has been relatively calm and patient as we see Pedro Sanchez Albert looking to the inside at turn 8, then thinks better of it as we jump on board the Obsidian Racing 777. Almost halfway through this race, Alander now leads by 1.3 seconds, and at the line, in fact, let's look for the lap time now, because Alander crosses start finish line with a 1:26.607 for Johan Harth behind, a 1:26.993. There is 0.4 of a second between these two cars now, Lewis. The black tires on Alander's machine very much holding up very strongly.
Temperatures have increased on the circuit as well from the start of the race, which is probably playing a little bit into some of the hard tyre runners doing a little bit better at this point in the race. I believe it was something like 32 degrees when we started the race on track temp. It's up to just slightly under 34. Of course, dynamic track here on iRacing that builds up through the race, can chop and change dependent on cloud coverage, on sun, on how many cars are running around, on what's going on, and so that's why it's just increased bit by bit, which works into the hands of some drivers, of some driving styles, of some teams, some setups, and of course some strategies as well. Alander taking very much the advantage in this scenario and continuing to pull out. 0.4 on the previous lap from Harth, looking stronger and stronger. It seems to be a two-horse race. Makes me wonder if those black-walled harder tyres are the optimum ones to be on, and maybe if we switch round, we see Johan Harth on them, maybe he'll start to close the gap down again.
I think that where we are in this race right now, 34 degrees Celsius track temperature and continuing to fall. Oh, the black mark tyre might be optimal now, but if we get down to 32, maybe even 31 degrees Celsius in the final 10-15 laps of this race, you might want to be on the red mark tyres. Josh Ladd for Yas Heat on the push to pass spot and getting past Christopher Demerit in the 144 as well. Two cars working similar strategies. Josh Ladd, who qualified decently, I would say. I'm sure he will be hoping for more as he gets more comfortable and familiar with the Dallara IR18. Works his way up into 13th position. He had a drive-through penalty as well, Lewis. So still looks like a top 10 might be on the cards as Jose Soria down into the box.
Super short stint from Jose Soria. Came in only 10 laps ago. Of course, he would expect that in this scenario he knows the strategy that he can do 15 laps on the stint and that there's no point in really extending it much further unless the tyres are in really, really good stead. So bailing from the stint super early and coming onto the hard tyres, trying to take advantage of the current conditions as Kerry drops a position to the 007 of Harry Bennett, who did get a warning from qualifying, did pick up on that. I think it was something to do with going off in a dangerous way or something like that before returning to pit lane or something. I don't remember it fully, but was one of the very few drivers who did pick up a warning in qualifying.
Just a bit naughty if you were Henry Bennett. The drivers were instructed various points around the track where they could reset back onto pit road to head back out there for a flying lap. Bennett did not use one of those points. Got away with just a warning. Left side of your screen, let's take a look at the movers and shakers of today's action. Alander, Harth, they're up 3 on the day, as is Andra, who's up 5 so far. Kraus and Albert dropping out of podium positions into 4th and 5th respectively. Then you start to find the drivers that have been very, very smart. Yalvaz, Manuel Domingo, 9 and 20 places gained respectively. And we saw the replay on the start, Lewis, with Brian Carey, 21 positions gained. The Canadian, who squeaked in, started at the very tail end of this field, now up in 11th.
For Domingo, I am really, really impressed with that because I'm pretty sure he can get to the end of the race. He's one of the drivers that came in at that point we were discussing that there's potential for these drivers to make one more pit stop before the end. Quite a lot of the other drivers are requiring to come down pit lane twice, potentially for quite a short stop on the final one. Obviously, they won't have to maximise the fuel tanks, depending on how they're running things, as we're seeing a switch for position. I think that's Ladd moving up past Brian Carey as well for Yaz Heat, so another position gained and dropped from Brian Carey. But yeah, for Domingo, I am not 100% sure how high he can go, but I'm pretty sure higher than 7 if there is only one more pit stop left on the cards.
And officially halfway through this race. It started off in a bit of dramatic circumstance, 3 cautions in the opening 10 laps, but we've seen some incredible wheel-to-wheel action. Strategy is becoming crucial as Johan Harth down onto the pit road very early on. 27 laps left for him. He'll be requiring 1 stint on the black, 1 stint on the reds. The expectation should be, Lewis, the blacks would be the slightly shorter stint.
Yeah, Peter Berryman's the one running the things behind the scenes at the moment for Johan Harth and just trying to play things out, going onto the Blackwalled harder tyres. Potentially, you say, taking advantage of the conditions. Track temperatures dropped down now. It was 33.9 not very long ago. It's now down to 33.3. So losing plenty of track temperature quite quickly. And you're saying there that it might get to the point where it's too cold even for the Blackwalled tyres, where they'll start to lose speed. They'll start to grain up and become rubbish over a stint. Adam Blocker making a move as he's defending from Sanders. Taking advantage of those Blackwalled tyres right now could be crucial to some of these drivers really taking the most of this race.
The 8-time iRacing IndyCar Open champion works his way then up into 7th, up 4 positions on the day, and finds himself in the optimal position when it comes to the strategy. Domingo has extended the stint a further 3 laps from Blocker, so with the gap between them 6.5 and counting, Adam Blocker can find some time on the track. He might be able to close on the 53 and make for a very interesting closing stages of the race. Valtteri Alander down onto the pit road as well this time around. Should expect him to switch back onto the alternate tires. Lewis, track temperature, I've been trying to track it as much as I can. It's still holding at 34 degrees Celsius. We are past 4 p.m. in the virtual Watkins Glen.
Wonder if he might stay on the Blackwall tyre. No, he does move on to the red. I was just wondering because of his pace on those black tyres. Maybe he might have preferred them in that sense. But no, goes on to the softer compound tyre. Obviously a fairly short pit stop in comparison to other ones throughout the race. Certainly not 10. I think it might have been close towards the 8.3 seconds. Don't have to take that much fuel, so don't have to sit there for the extra couple of seconds. And so, yeah, boom, straight out of the pit lane as Domingo and Vaz switch positions. Domingo is marching forward presently. This is looking absolutely outstanding.
I think Domingo just gave a short thank you to Yao Vaz as well. Did not fight too hard. Seems to be what is the name of the game at this point now. If you are struggling on your tyres, which I think the Portuguese driver is starting to do in the Yas Heat number 89, let through cars that are maybe slightly earlier in their stint, working better in terms of the window. Here's a look at the way the move happened down into the inner loop, and, well, not much of a fight back there from the former World Championship competitor.
No, that'll be really, really good for Domingo. The Spaniard marching forward in this race, qualified way down the order, but courtesy of all of the chaos in the early stages, is really grabbing things in this race. Phil Kraus comes into the pit lane from 2nd, so Albert heads out front. Syandra leading the race at present. So these drivers that are coming in now, we are expecting another stop after this. They can't do 25 laps. It's more so towards the between 17 and 14 laps to go in this race, so 43 to 46 that we're expecting them in for their final stop. And for some of these drivers that are out now, if they can reach that point, great. These drivers that are coming in now, this race is not looking so hot right now.
Kraus stays on the black tyres as well. Interesting call there. He will cycle out right into the thick of a pack. Have some lap traffic behind him. Brian Carey 1.2 seconds behind as Kraus on the button, building up his speed once more, trying to get tempered pressure up into his tyres. Finds himself in 11th position with 25 laps to go here in round 1 of the 2021 ISOWC season. It's Syandra for the VRS Satellite Racing Team at the front of the field, with Pedro Sanchez Albert chasing him down in the 777. Manuel Domingo 7 seconds adrift from 2nd, but might be the net race leader. Strategy is proving to be so very interesting, Lewis, and after 3 cautions in the early stages of this race, this is what we expected from this championship. And for those who have stuck through the opening 30 laps and maybe saw the cautions coming thick and fast and decided to stay around, wait for the strategy to start playing a factor, well, they are being treated to an absolutely enthralling race.
Yeah, the reward is coming as Albert comes into the pit lane. We are really being gifted some strategies here. Courtesy, to be fair, I almost think that those 3 cautions towards the start of the race have helped this, because some drivers are exploring totally different things and approaches to this race, that it is wide open. And whilst we have, you know, our favourites and we have these drivers that we're focused on, the pace from Valtteri Alander, for example, looked really, really good. There's a lot of drivers have come into the pit lane there. Sanders was dropping backwards anyways. He's dropped back behind Valtteri Alander and now came into the pit lane. For those drivers, they're looking quite strong at the moment, but to be honest, if you were to ask me right now to pick a driver to win the race, I have no idea.
Well, I think if Zach Campbell is still out on track, he might be someone in a very strong position. But now, Alander versus Harth, they are a couple of seconds adrift. The gap between them is now actually up to 4 seconds as Alander on the red mark tires is making progress. Now only 7/10 behind Adam Blocker. He will continue charging forward. We were looking at João Vaz, the Portuguese driver, just a few moments ago. Taking a look at my notes here, Lewis, this is a driver that has done it all. He started as an iRacing beta tester. Before it was called iRacing, back when it was called First. He's won too many races and too many series to recall. He's been in 5 open wheel World Championship seasons, 1 season of the Porsche Tagore Esports Super Cup, along with 1 season in the Endurance Championship that used to get run as well. He has been racing against names that people who are watching here today for the first time might not be familiar with. Tyler Hudson, Nim Cross, Derek Wood, Chris Shearburn, etc., etc. This dates back to 2004.
Yeah, a vast amount of experience to fall back on in sim racing. And it did say in the notes, like, how do you find this car on the tyre model and stuff like that? I remember these notes that you were saying about you put together. So he loves it. And I think that's the thing, is that just loves racing, loves getting out there on the racetrack, loves getting onto it and just enjoying being a part of the race. And what a better place to do it than iRacing you'll struggle to find. Also, podcast producer Hugo Luis says that he raced him back in the Pro Series in 2009. So 12 years ago. Time has gone. Caution's out. Oh!
It's Jose Soria, I do believe, in the 255. This is coming down into the inner loop. I'm not sure if there's contact with a second car, but 4th caution of the day, and it comes right as we were thinking that the strategy was blown wide open. Sayandra will cycle to the front of the field. He does owe us a pit stop, though, as we'll try and figure out why we are back under caution. I do think Henry Bennett might have had an issue as well. This is coming through the heel. I don't think it was related. It's Brian Carey and Jose Soria that just a bit of miscommunication there coming onto this back straightaway, Lewis, and fortunate that didn't end up in a worse disaster.
Yeah, on the reverse as well, Domingo didn't quite know where he was going and darted out at the last moment. It was a little bit tight. Not ideal. Here's on board with Henry Bennett. This is just as it's come out. Oh, bump on the wall as well for good measure. Think he might be all right.
I think he might be. There might be some damage to the front left clip of the front wing and maybe the suspension toe link as well, but a 007 will be very grateful that at least it happened under safety car conditions. The field gets reset then, Lewis, and now we have to try and cycle through what's happening in the strategy.
Yeah, for some, I said this before, some teams wanted this kind of thing. They wanted this to play it out, maybe into their favour. Some that were awaiting a pit stop, this may work out. Some drivers, if it was coming in a little bit tight. For those that need to fuel save a little bit for whatever reason, this might be ideal. But to be honest, at least for the most part, I'd almost say that a lot of teams will be asking for this pace car to stay out for a little bit longer, because it's come out a touch too early for some. This is going to play things out curious, because any driver pitting now will still have to come in before the checkered flag, because we're 22 laps. The maximum we're expecting these cars to go, unless plenty other safety cars and whatnot, is 17 laps, which is quite a few laps short. So, this has blown it wide open.
Confirmation from race control. You have a car spun on the back straight, Lewis. I mean, there's a couple of people in our YouTube chat asking how that's a yellow. I mean, We saw the weave that Domingo did, unsure of where the car was going to place itself. I think it's a pretty clear-cut yellow flag there. Yes, we are in the sim and we don't have the same safety considerations that we have in the real world, but we have this additional strategic element. The drivers have been told no free toes. They want to reset back onto pit road. They need race control permission. It just means, well, if you're a driver out there on track, you're a spotter up there in the booth as well, you've got to be a little bit careful about how you commit to your strategy.
You've got a car perpendicular to the racetrack where the only way they're going to get going is by reversing because their face is towards the wall. Yes, it's not a chaotic crash, it's not massive, there's not debris everywhere, but still you've got to reverse at the highest speed part of the racetrack. I'm not like that. For me, that's a caution. Straight, like, I get it. That is 100% a caution. 90 degrees to the racetrack. And also, again, from a strategic point of view, if you were to imagine that it was real life, if there was a car like that, 100% that would be a caution. No doubt about it. And so, you know, it's going to spice up the strategy. Love cautions being in this series because it does spice up that strategy, because now we're seeing some drivers taking advantage of it. We're seeing Syandra come down to the pit lane as well. A couple of other drivers jumping in with. I think this could be good for some. I'm not sure who, though.
Well, Alander stays out there. Adam Blocker also elects to stay out there as well. That is the more interesting call, if you ask me, but I know what the Ilmore engineer is thinking here, Lewis. He's thinking we get at least one more lap under safety car conditions. We'll get back to the green flag action with roughly 20 to go. If Walker can pull off some strategy masterclass here, he will be up 9 positions in terms of the track position that he's got right now, and in a prime position to fight for the race victory.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of drivers that are eyeing that prize later in the race. Some of the drivers that have just come in, potentially when they come in next time, it will just be a splash, which means their second pit stop will be an awful lot shorter. You can cut an awful lot of time out of it, especially if you're going on those Blackwall harder tyres. You can just extend that stint a little bit and, you know, come in, just take a splash, get to the checkered flag, cut out a bit more time. But they do have a lot of drivers to get through, so they're going to lose a lot of time from that anyway. It's going to be tough out there, and being the race strategists, all of them that are watching over all of our drivers here, trying to pick apart the pieces and play the cards right, it's a tough one. They'll be earning their paycheck today, I'll tell you that.
Well, I tell you what, Lewis, I've also been talking with Race Control. They're earning their paycheck as well. As the pace car driver, I don't think we have an official name just yet, but might be something we put to our fan audience. You've got Barney the Flagman. Maybe we've got Kevin, the pace car driver.
Kevin or a Derek. It's got to be a great name. It can't just be like, you know, Richard. It's got to be something, you know, extreme. You got like a Derek. I'd vote a Derek. I'm going Derek. Well, but if you give it to everyone, it's Driver McDriver face, isn't it? These days?
Yeah, we're not allowing that to even be a possibility. I do like the idea. I'm just thinking back to a classic Top Gear moment. Oliver.
Oliver, aye.
Huh? I like it.
No, I'm with it. I'm with it.
Well, he needs a Twitter account, because Barney the Flagman, he's becoming a very popular man now, with Twitter followers all over the board, and well, Mike Joy can barely get through a NASCAR broadcast without inserting Barney's name into the action. We have, at RaceSpotTV, by the way, our own version of Barney the Flagman. His name is Aaron Likens, a flagman for the NTT IndyCar Series. He's been a staple of the iRacing Indy 500 broadcast here on RaceSpot. Unfortunately, because of his flagging duties this year, Lewis, he'll have to miss out. But I'm not sure if there's anything else he'd rather be doing. Sitting up there in the flag booth, flagging first at the Indy GP and then and during Indianapolis 500 qualifying.
Awesome to get a part of the action. The same thing with things like marshals and stuff that make things so crucial for motorsport to go forward. Barney will be ready to wave his flag once again with the green colour, as hopefully for the final time we're about to get back underway.
It is spicy now, though, with 21 laps to go in round 1 of the 2021 ISOWC season. It is not Zach Campbell out front that brings us back to the green flag action. It's Valtteri Alander from Adam Blocker and Johan Hoff. Josh Ladd up into 4th position. He's worked his way up through the field with Philip Krause in 5th. up through the S's. Lap traffic going to be a factor here, Lewis, and that will be something crucial. You can see the Sim City sports car there very much being a bit of a cork in the bottle.
Yeah, Xavi Ross and Azam as well, just sort of basically in front of Josh Ladd and potentially going to be slowing him down as he's effectively the city car in line despite being the 4th position. Certainly not an ideal scenario. It's perfect for the top 3 as they've got cars between them. Naturally, the way it is on a single file restart, not ideal for those further back. But yeah, Valtteri Alander did make the most of that scenario. Johan Harth is applying pressure to Adam Blocker though, and he needs to get through sharp.
Blocker is working lap 13 on his stint, so he should be down in about 4 or 5 laps, give or take. But the gap between first and second, already 1.1 seconds as they work their way down into the heel of the boot. With Josh Ladd now finding himself 1.2 seconds adrift with 2 cars, not 1, but 2 cars stacked up in between him and 3rd position. Strategy, that is the name of the game though. Alander on the 6th lap of his stint as compared to Adam Blocker. And drivers like Henry Bennett and Christopher Demerit that were looking to be odds-on for some sort of strategy masterclass there, Lewis. It's now proving, and they've got to get their elbows out and the pace up on track.
Josh Ladd did get by one of the drivers there, and so now the next one that needs to get through is Pedro Sanchez Albert, who's already made up a position on that start, was looking to try and make it through up the S's, but had to lift out of it. And I think as we're riding on board with the merit, you've got Phil Krause ahead. He might be looking to try and make a move. Albert's on the push to pass though, as they're going to clear that lap traffic. Phil Krause not able to do anything about it. We've seen he's been pretty handy on the push to pass as Krause earlier on in the race, so potentially doesn't have quite as much in the tank left for the latter part of this race, which I'd want to have as much as possible at this end of the race, because after that caution everything is super tight.
Well, if our producer Hugo Luis can throw up the push-to-pass usage up on your screen, you can see that Alander out front has burned through half of his 10 so far, with Blocker only getting onto the button twice. The Frenchman the same as well. Josh Ladd has also used half of his button activations that you get 70 additional horsepower to push you up the hill, which seems to be the main place that we see it work. Doesn't seem as though anyone has been too aggressive on the button just yet, Lewis, and that's something that they're clearly trying to manage and preserve for the closing stages of the race.
Yeah, I'll go back on that. I thought Phil Krause had used it a few more times, but no, he's still got plenty left in the tank as we've got some side-by-side. They're going into the penultimate corner. Valverde just trying to fend off Soraya behind, and Andrew as well. These drivers that came in the pit stop fairly recently, courtesy of the caution, marching their way through. We're on board with Syandra, making the move on Soria as well, and it's continuing with the 2 wide up through the S's.
2 wide between Sanders and Soria, who finds himself losing 3 positions in the course of just a couple of corners. Look at the move then from Andra as he tries to jink aggressively around the Portuguese driver of João Valverde. He's forced onto the outside though. The 381 holds the inside line through the inner loop, enables Graham Sanders to get the run down into the outer loop. And this right-hand sweeper that very much drives and operates like an oval corner in many ways. Sanders, does he look to the inside as we enter the boot? Not for now, and he'll stay in 12th position. But this is great wheel-to-wheel action, Lewis. And this is not about strategy anymore. This is just about track positioning.
They all know that every single driver at the moment, it's reset now. Where we were a bit confused earlier onto who needs to come down to pit lane again, who needs to do this, who needs to how many times. Everyone's in the same boat now. Everyone needs to come in once more before we get to the checkered flag. Everyone needs one more pit stop, one more tyre change, one more this, one more that. So everyone is out on the attack, trying to march their way as fast forward as possible. The 255 Soria though is struggling. There's some front wing damage that was just kicked off there on the left hand side of the screen. Not sure from whose car that was off, but certainly a fairly large chunk nonetheless.
Meanwhile, out front, the gap between Harth and Josh Ladd down to just 0.4 of a second, and Ladd is pulling in the 777 of Pedro Sanchez Albert with him. Up the hill there, you can see the Frenchman stuck behind. I believe it's Xavi Ross in the 33 car looking to the inside. Down this back straightaway with Josh Ladd using the draft to his advantage. The first couple of cars here, Lewis, have very much pulled away an advantage. 3.4 seconds between Alander and Blocker, with Johan Harth a further 1 second adrift from the 74 machine. And Valtteri Alander in control of this race.
Valtteri Alander's just checked out after that restart, has just absolutely gone. and that is exactly what he needed to do. He's got Adam Blocker behind as well, and courtesy of some of that lap traffic, Johan Half has just, that lot have just not been able to march their way forward, and they continue to have issues with lap traffic. We're looking at Josh Ladd, who's got Albert behind. It's pretty rough for some of these drivers. Oh, that's a moment.
Ooh, the Canadian that lives in the Middle East, Ramez Azam, driving for SimCity Esports. Not the first time he's had issues in through the bus stop chicane. This one, though, a bit more terminal. Front end of that car significantly damaged. Should be day done for SimCity Esports and the number 65. Back to the live coverage as a car peeling down onto pit road. It's not Adam Blocker. It is still Josh Ladd and Pedro Sanchez Albert duking it out wheel to wheel down in towards turn one. The purple and silver machine of Philip Kraus lurking in the background, Lewis, and for a driver that's been very, very reserved in this race compared to the pace that we saw from him in qualifying, I think he's biding his time and he's waiting to try and pounce as side by side. The 777 gets on past the number 12.
Oh, has Josh Ladd got a problem? I think there is a problem for the Yaz Heat car. There is absolutely a problem. What has happened for Josh Ladd?
Technical issue. He's stuck in sixth gear, finally able to shift down. And he's going to have to pull to the side. I wonder if this is going to bring out the caution flag once more. At 44 out of 60, that car is placed in a very precarious position, Lewis. And I'm not sure what race control will do about this.
Yeah, we'll see if he can get back. They've given him the permission to return to pit lane. I'm not sure if that was a pedal issue. He was stuck in sixth gear, but when he got down into second, still wasn't able to get on. Some serious technical issue there. Not sure what has happened. Such a shame, though. Was running in such a good spot and just fell apart right there and then.
I'm going to go back and listen on my own view of the races. Here goes Manuel Domingo side by side with Christopher Demera. These were two cars that were having a strategy fight slightly earlier. The 144 up into sixth position, getting on past the Radicals Online Track Racer machine. And now into the final corner they work. Here comes Adam Blocker, and guess what? Christopher Demera follows him down as well.
Yeah, they should be able to get to the checkered flag from this point as they come into the pit lane. There's crash on the start-finish straight. Oh my goodness me, that is enormous. Plenty of cars involved. We've got Syandra as a part of that. That'll surely be a caution because that is chaos and carnage out of the final corner. 15 laps to go. Still no caution as of yet.
It's Valverde, the other car that's being collected in that one. Significant damage on his car. I do think we might stay under green flag conditions now. Valverde is the only car that is stationary, and he has requested the tow and made his way down onto the lane. It's contact between the two of them, and Graham Saunders gets collected in it as well.
That's such a shame. Such a shame. Syandra was maybe a little bit too hot into the final corner. Not sure if there was a potential incident with them coming into pit lane or something like that, and it's just Valverde maybe was trying to get down pit lane, was just maybe a little bit slow on all the tyres through that final corner. A huge crash either way, and yeah, not an ideal scenario. And yeah, I think we're just trying to get through to the last part of the race without causing a caution for anything that's not super duper dramatic. But that was a pretty big deal. Yeah, big surprise that there wasn't a caution for that. But Valtteri Alander will be happy to no end, considering the gap that he's put out, as well as some of these drivers that have come into the pit lane. 14 laps to go. Johan Half into the pit lane, and he's going to try and close down that gap to Valtteri Alander. It was 6 seconds as he came into the pit lane. Let's see what he can do over the sequence.
Ooh, that's Dean Woods coming through up the hill at turn 9, and now right rear suspension is broken with the rear wing wiggling around as well. And he is another car that has had to request a tow back to pit road. He is slowly trundling his way down onto pit road, though, so we stay green in the case of the number 45 machine. The Thai driver able to just about hold on to that one. 15 laps to go here, Lewis. We'll take a look at the replay between Brandon Treno and the 45 car. Just a little bit of an aggressive defense there from Dean Woods, and Brandon Treno wasn't necessarily closing the gap there.
Yeah, just basically steamrolled him. Not really too sure what was happening ahead with Dean Woods, and basically just misjudged it. It's kind of one of those things, if you're going to defend hard, you've got to kind of expect that kind of stuff. If it's not too predictable, I'm sure race control will look at it and give their judgment and their eyes swiftly to it. Plenty to look at for them over the last few laps, because a lot has happened over the first part of the race. Then it got a bit quiet from an incident point of view, but the strategy absolutely took off into the stratosphere. And then over the last few laps, it's got a little bit chaotic again as our race leader, Valtteri Alander, into pit lane once again.
Let's see how long he's going to be stationary for the final time today. The Finnish driver needs the money stop. Into the box then, focus on his face, up on the jacks as well. Going to get a brief drink of water. Where is Adam Blocker? Blocker is on the red marked tires, as is Alander. Off the pit road then for the 77, as Adam Blocker still working his way across the start-finish line. Valtteri Alander very much in control right now.
Yeah, 100%. And to be fair, I was going to say one thing when it came to the earlier incident we saw with Zach Campbell, when Valtteri Alander was effectively gifted the lead through that scenario. His pace over the early stage of the race looked incredible, and I wouldn't put it past him too much to, even if Zach Campbell was a part of this race, to have been matching him on pace towards the end of those stints. Obviously, we know how strong Campbell was, and that incident really did cost it, but don't just think that Campbell would have run away of Valtteri Alander, because Alander's pace right now is absolutely sublime. Look at the gap between him and Johan Harth. It's around 7.8, nearly 8 seconds. Like I said before the pit stop, it was 6. He is pulling that out, and every single lap he does is just incredible right now. For Kova, things are looking perfect.
Well, and you know, for a driver that didn't have too much experience with this car and tire combo, he's enjoying the ride so far, and a driver who competed in the Porsche Tag Car Esports Super Cup in 2020, also won the BMW Sim 120 Cup race at Road Atlanta alongside Thomas Tattler. I was in the comms booth for that one alongside Will Vincent. That was the breakout moment for Kova, not just a sim racing organization, but an esports behemoth in Finland as well. So here comes down into turn one once more. Alander will pick up then. This should be the 777 of Pedro Sanchez Albert, still being kept honest by Phil Kraus in the 19 behind him. Two cars very quick on the day so far, Lewis. I don't think it's going to necessarily cycle out in terms of the results they were looking for.
No, but if they can stay in the top 5 or whatever, if they can get those kind of results on a fairly consistent basis over the season, that's where a championship challenge comes out. You don't have to win every single race. Well, I mean, if you do win every single race, you always win the title, obviously. But in a season like this, the expectation is that at some point over a season, you're going to see some mistakes, you're going to see some issues. When we head to the ovals, when we head obviously to Indianapolis at the end of the season, we head to Long Beach, the risk of incident, of mistake, of issue is so high that I would take a consistent run through a season, just let things play out as it is. I think that's what Phil Kraus has done a lot through this race. We saw that, you know, qualified very well, qualified in second. Pace-wise, maybe through the race has been playing things a little bit calmly, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more patient, and is just allowing the race to unfold. If he finishes 5th here, that's still a fine result. Maybe a bit disappointing from second, but I still think when it comes to a charity challenge, that's the mindset that you need, is just every single lap at a time. Don't rush it, don't push it too hard.
Well, and Kraus, I did mention his 2020 Indy Elite Championship. His 2021 campaign kind of being blighted by the champion's curse that Adam Blocker found himself dealing with in 2020. So Kraus now deals with that in another championship, but things are looking quite good. He's made the switch over from HM Engineering to the Team Talent crew recently, and heading into the month of May, Kraus looks like he might be a contender at the iRacing Indy 500. Adam Blocker gets on the push to pass as well. He is cycled out right behind Johan Harth here, and Lewis Blocker might still be in for a second place finish.
Yeah, it looks good for a podium of any variety at present. Potentially at second place. Of course, we've still got to wait to see how other drivers cycle out over the pit stop sequence before we reach the checkered flag. But from qualifying, what was it, 10th, 11th position that he qualified? It was quite far down the order. It was a disappointing qualifying session. We spoke about it before, knowing his pace and potential of Adam Blocker. And over the first part of the race, I was still confused. And yeah, just either way, it has come to the fore at the right moment. Albert into the pit lane from the head of the field. Doesn't come up with a pit on the graphic, but either way, we can see on screen he is into the pit lane nonetheless, coming in for his final stop, 10 to go.
And so Domingo now net second on the button as well as he tries to build up whatever buffer he can. Final stop then for the 777 in today's action. Up on the jacks, fresh set of the red mark tires, 8.3 stationary there. Bit of a long stop if you ask me, but he will roll out right alongside Adam Blocker. So there is still a three-way fight for second and third right now. Blocker will sweep around with tires already up to temperature and pressure on the button as well. These cars only 2 seconds behind the Frenchman out in front.
Yeah, and he knows that he needs to pull away right now because Albert's been aggressive throughout the early stage of the race when he was battling inside the top 5 over the first couple of laps after those first 3 cautions, was very much fighting and was not afraid to leave his nose down the inside and get aggressive and get attacking, and it was excellent aggression. It was well measured. But I'm sure Adam Blocker knows that looking behind, that car fresh out of the pit lane, going to the checkered flag, he's got to be looking in his mirrors as well as forward as well, because things are going to be a little bit tough as Valtteri Alander gets by Walton. That is not a lapped car, that is for position, but we are awaiting a pit stop from Phil Krause, who comes into the pit lane from Domingo, Kerry and Walton as well.
Domingo follows him down. I wonder if Kerry, the Canadian in the 79, will do so as well. Espity on the button now, 1 lap down in 15th as he gets on past Graham Saunders. So still some side-by-side action up and down through the field. Our 32 starters only got 22 cars still out there and circulating. Lots of drivers still trying to just recoup whatever championship points they can. Alander back into the race lead then as Krause off the jacks. Where does he cycle out then? This will be important. Adam Blocker working his way through turn 1. It's going to be neck and neck between Blocker, Domingo, and Krause for the next couple of laps.
Here comes Blocker, Krause out ahead, but it's just going to hold on for now. Up through the S's, Adam Blocker's going to go around the outside at the final part. It's going to leave the inside coming into the inner loop to Phil Krause if he wanted it. Wasn't able to hold firm. Adam Blocker on the push to pass, gets the position done and holds ahead of Phil Krause, now cycled up into 4th place. It will become 3rd once Walton comes into the pit lane though, so this is the battle for the podium as Johan Harf is pulling away.
And you know what, for Alexander Walton, he's on this alternate strategy. It will still potentially net him a top 10 finish, might be 12th in fact, because you've got Soria, Bennett and Carey separated by just a couple of seconds, but the German looking pretty good then on debut in the ISOWC. One of his first outings as well in an Indy car in general. Won the Daytona 24 in Split 2 alongside Ramez Azam and Gustas Grinberg as his 2 teammates in this race. Wants to be midfield on the road courses and just be competitive on the oval. Starting off his campaign very nicely at the line, 9 to go as Alander continues to extend the gap. The battle though between Blocker, Krause and Albert continues to heat on up.
Yeah, I was going to say about Walton's teammate Grimbergus there, who was one of the drivers that was close to being a part of the race, ended up 20th in the first group of qualifiers, and so just missed out on being a part of today's action, which I'm sure might have changed things as Phil Krause and Adam Blocker and Albert all on the push to pass as we exit the Estes section towards the inner loop. Oh, I don't think this is going to work out for Krause.
Our tower is lit up like a Christmas tree. There's a pop of smoke in front. That's Javi Ross, who's parked in the grass. The 19 of Krause cycles back into net 3rd position. It's been a difficult day for the young Javi Ross, but he will still bounce on, trying to get to a top 20 finish here. Blocker now has to defend from the 777. Look at Krause. He is taking off, and Yalvaz in the rearview mirror of Adam Blocker as well will be a threat the 74 has to deal with.
Yeah, I'm amazed that worked out for Krause. That was committed and bold from the young American around the outside of Adam Blocker. Blocker's now got to look backwards as Albert's going to also try and fight his way through. Yao Vaz as well is really, really close. It was looking great for Adam Blocker about 5 laps ago. Now not so much. Drops another position and the Yazheat driver will be next.
These guys are fighting tooth and nail as well. You could see sideways over the crest of the hill at turn 9 was Blocker. Now out of the final corner, very tight. Here comes Yao Vaz down to the inside and across the start-finish line. The 89 car up into 6th position. What can Blocker do? His tires must be screaming out in agony. But a 7th place finish, given what he's been through today, will be, I'm sure, still a very good result. Gaps out front, though, continuing to build on up. It is 9 seconds between Valtteri Alander and Johan Harf for the race lead. Philip Krause is chasing down the iRacing Rallycross World Champion, 2.5 seconds between the 90 and the 19, with Pedro Sanchez Albert 2 seconds behind there, with Yaubaz and Adam Blocker still almost wheel to wheel. 7 laps to go at the line this time around. It's Alander in control. We take a look at the RaceSpotTV replay, Lewis, for the number 33.
Oh, a bit of a hard hit on the back as well as he hit the wall. Just easy to slide going through there. The inner loop, slightly worn tyres, and just lost grip on the rear end, and it snapped around at such speed there was nothing he could do about it. Keeps out of the way nicely, allowing everyone to come through. Not the day that Xavi Ross wanted. Still 22nd on the road, so still looking to get to the checkered flag and net an important finish and points before we head off to the next round, and quite a way off, by the way. Zach Campbell inside the top 20, which obviously after the day, way down the order. You can see they're 3 laps down ahead of Josh Chin, who I think is actually the one directly behind him as well, so they are battling it out. Not the day he wanted, but still important points on the board.
Yeah, you've got the king of chins, the former iRacing Indy 500 winner, I think back in 2018, as we take a look at the onboard camera look with the king of chins himself. They're squabbling over 18th and 19th. Joshua Chin has been asked to report to race control at the conclusion of the race as well, so watch out and see if the number 93 gets a bit of a talking to. In front, though, I believe that's Henry Bennett, who's going slightly slowly up the hill. Joshua Chin is trying to find a way past right now, and Henry Bennett, who finds himself in 12th spot, if I'm correct here, Lewis, can't afford to get collected by these two cars scrapping it out.
No, but he knows that these two are very, very quick coming through, and you can see there with Joshua Chin on the onboard looking into, and this is what I love about sim racing, is being able to see the facial expression, see the emotion, see the drama. You can see there absolutely none of that at the moment, just calm as you like. He knows this race has slipped away and he's just trying to have a bit of fun. A bit of a smile there as well. You know, just enjoying, trying to enjoy what he can from the race that has fallen away. And I understand why he'd be a little bit frustrated with how things have got, but he still wants to get by Zach Campbell and put one hand on at least, you know, his assertion that he is one driver to be looking at towards the front of this season. Did qualify in 3rd today behind Zach Campbell as well, who was on pole position. Of course, Phil Krause, who's the only driver from that front lot that's still up there in the order.
And for Zach Campbell, I mean, maybe we can get a look at his face as well. It'll be 5 laps to go at the line. Started on pole. It was a very stop and start beginning to the race as more smoke coming out of the final corner for the young Georgian. Battle for 3rd, or net 2nd, is heating up, and it's the Apex Racing teammate of Campbell, Johan Hart, who's on the button right now, because Philip Krause is half a second behind and closing here, Lewis, as we work our way down into the boot.
Krause's pace has been absolutely spot on the last few laps. Is lapping even nearly a second faster than our race leader Valtteri Alander at the moment. I don't think he's going to be able to close the gap to Alander, but I get the feeling for Johan Hart that this is, you know, it's a sort of a section of when and not if, because Phil Krause is coming. He is there and he is ready to pass. He's done a few passes today, but has been fairly measured in his approach. Got to go the long way round. I don't think he's going to be able to do that just yet on the Apex Racing driver.
That was pretty vigorous defense from the Frenchman, all the way to the inside, down between the boot, in through 7 and 8. What can he do? The tyres 9 laps old for the number 90, Krause. 4 laps into his run. Has always looked like he's had good control and good measure over tyre temperatures. At the line, Alexander Walton comes down onto pit road for the final time in today's race. 5 laps to go. Valtteri Alander for Kova Esports, 9 seconds clear of the rest of your field, and we are watching the battle for 2nd. Both of the drivers getting on the button as they climb their way up the S's. It's Yaubaz in 5th as well, trying to close on Pedro Sanchez. Once more, Lewis, the tower lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers, we saw them earlier, they were saving them for this kind of moment. Phil Krause has gone around the outside before. He's a little bit too far back on Johan Hart to potentially do it here. Did it on Adam Blocker, not able to do it this time. Hart, his eyes are very much focused on his mirrors. Phil Krause super fast at the moment as we run down the chute. No way through at present. He is looking super, super racy, and I assume for these drivers, 2nd is about as good as it's going to get, because I just don't think that even if at the earliest point, even when he first got there, if Krause got through, there was no way he was catching Valtteri Alander. Around the outside though, at the heel, that's fantastic.
Hart was sideways coming over the crest of the hill. The 19 car tries to stick it around the outside of turn 8, deep under the brakes, and the 19 machine up into 2nd place. Philip Krause started up on the front row, has had to fight for it, Lewis, and with 4 laps to go, he's going to be running away from the Frenchman behind. That is going to send the confidence for Kraus sky high as we round off the month of May. We're going to, like you said, have a couple of weeks off as we focus to other things that usually you do during the month of May, namely at the Brickyard. But Kraus will be full of confidence given how his race has gone today.
Yeah, what an electric move. A good couple that he's put on this evening. Phil Kraus around the outside of Adam Blocker going into the inner loop, and now around the outside through the entire boot section, realistically, on Johan Hart. Got himself up into second position, looking really, really strong. When we take the break after this, of course, a lot of the drivers on the grid will be focusing on getting their race done at the Brickyard and fighting their way round as we focus back on Adam Blocker as there's contact and away he's gone with Domingo.
They tried to work side by side. It has ended up terribly for the 53 car. 2 machines that were trying something different on strategy. The Radicals Online Track Racer number 53 parked in the gravel with significant damage. We'll have to take one more look at the replay, Lewis, and I'm trying to avoid letting my bias show here. I am a Powerslide Motorsports member. If you ask me, Domingo slightly just came across the nose of Blocker there. You can go too wide, and we've seen that before, and not like that, as I think Blocker has had to reset back down onto pit road. Day done for the 74 as well.
Unless Adam Blocker's skipped the Grand Prix. I don't know if you can do that, if you can go to the right hand side and skip the entire section of this boot. Either way, let's take a look at it. So we've got Domingo who's going to go around the outside there. We lose them in the trees. I'm not 100% sure if it was Domingo cutting across. It's tight between the two. And either way, both of them are off. And effectively, in the last moments of the race, day done. Oh, not the best rejoin, I'll say, from Adam Blocker, right onto the path of the cars coming through. Let's take another look from this angle.
I think we need to try and get an aerial look if we can.
Yeah.
A couple of laps here to go. Maybe the aerial coverage brought to us by ATVO. Here we go. So Domingo pulls to the outside line, and you'll get the shot here. Blocker gives him just enough space. He is all over the inside curb as well there, as you can see. It is oh so difficult to run too wide through this portion of the corner. Now that I see this angle, Lewis, it's a bit more of a racing incident. 2 going into 1.
If I were to put it, I think in that scenario, Domingo's given just about enough room. It's tough stuff. It's hard racing between the two of them. I'm sure Race Control will take a look at it, and they can deal with that. We can sit on the fence a little bit. It's fine. But yeah, tough racing. It's hard stuff. They're all going to be racing and pushing it to the very limit. I'm sure tempers will be flaring between the two of them, and they'll have a little bit of a conversation post-race about it. But this is the thing, is that there's a month between this round and next as everyone focuses on Indianapolis. It's a bit of a break, and I love that kind of thing of like, we're starting the season, then we're having a break. So any sort of rivalries that are built here, they don't get an answer, not for a month. We have that entire time to build up and wait for the answers to those questions. And so for anyone who's been frustrated by someone else, frustrated by a lack of a decent result, you don't get to put that to bed straight away. You have to deal with that. You have to bury it for an entire month before we come back to Sebring on the 5th of June.
I can't wait for that. Down to the Sunshine State, and a track used by the IndyCar teams for testing in the real world. It's where they validate a lot of the setup changes and whatnot for street courses. We will go racing around the famed Sebring International Raceway. The full layout, when they go testing, they only use about half of the track in an alternate pit lane. This is the battle for third then. Johan Hart has been reeled on in by the 777 of Pedro Sanchez Albert, with Yao Vaz in the 89 car lurking as well. It will be white flag in the air this time around. Valtteri Alander leads by 9.5 seconds from the 19 of Phil Kraus, with Johan Hart a couple of seconds down the road and looking in his rear view mirrors. Question is, can Yao Vaz, up 10 positions on the day so far, Lewis, get one more past the 777?
Well, I wouldn't even necessarily rule out a podium. Got to do a decent final lap here. It's going to be tough. White flag out. Final lap has begun for the Cova man of Valtteri Alander. Just on the push to pass to try and gap as much as possible. Wants to end the race with a good 10-second lead. No way through and no good run out of the final corner for Joao Vaz at present. But potentially this run of the hill, everyone in the top 5 on the push to pass. I think we're going to see that really go green now.
It's like being a kid on a Christmas morning. Green light in the air. Galvez down the back straightaway in the draft of the car in front. Pulls to the inside, but he's too far to try and sling a move down through the inner loop. We'll have to wait for now, but still a couple of opportunities, not just for Vaz to get on past, but Albert, who rockets his way in through the bus stop chicane there, Lewis. He's closing on the Frenchman in front.
Yeah, I almost feel that, every corner that goes by is an opportunity gone, and that's just overcooked there into the chute as well for good measure from Albert. I think Half might be able to hold on, but any mistake now, this is a high-pressure scenario. Anything that goes wrong in this scenario right now, it's going to be podium gone.
Lapped car pulling to the inside. Out, though, of turn 9, it is the Finnish driver of Valtteri Alander. He qualified up at the front, making a statement right from the bat. And victory here today will taste oh so sweet, as for the first time in his IndyCar career, Valtteri Alander takes victory in round 1 of the ISOWC 2021 season. For Kova Esports, the celebration will begin, and they'll now have to look forward to 3 weeks from now when we'll do it all again from the Sebring International Raceway. Kraus across the line in second, with Harth in third, Albert in fourth, and we wait for Galvez and company further back to come across the start-finish line. Brian Carey defends from Jose Soria as Carey tries to hold on. 25 positions gained for the driver that started at the very tail end of the field at the line. He's almost out of fuel, I do believe. He holds on to 7th as Soria settles for 8th. Dramatic day, Lewis. 3 cautions in the first 10 laps, but it all built itself up into a strategy battle that the Finnish guys came out on top.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you say about it? Valtteri Alander's pace on slightly worn rubber, and then more importantly, his pace on those black-walled, harder tyres gifted him that. Absolutely excellent for Kova. And Kova, which is a team, as you've said before, they're a team in esports. This is something that we've seen before. We're seeing happen more and more of these big esports teams across the entirety of the esports world, whether it's here or on CSGO, on League, whatever. They are starting to branch into sim racing as a brand and bringing their power with it. And Kova's been one of those for the last few months. And I don't know, he did not really put a foot wrong in the complex strategy that we had today. 77 coming out on top, well deserved for Alander.
And, given what we started off with, Lewis, 3 cautions in the first 10 laps, it was looking a little bit grim for the 2021 season, but after that, it really got exciting. And enthralling round number 1, I don't think if you watched over the last couple of hours, you could be bored. And it's just unfortunate that now we'll get a little bit of a break before we do it all over again.
Yeah, if that's going to be how the season's going to unfold, I'll take it. I'll take the opening few cautions. I'll take it, maybe being a bit of a slow start, because, you normally say slow burn to a race where it starts out slow and it only gets good towards the final, final 5-10 laps. No, it was a slow start to the race, but everything just blew up from the midpoint in that race. It was absolutely crazy, and I just think that if that's how the season's going to unfold, when we head to Sebring, Auto Club, Long Beach, Road America, and of course to the Brickyard of Indianapolis at the end of the season, what a season we have ahead.
The day goes to Valtteri Alander for Kova Esports. Round 1 in the 2021 ISOWC season goes to the 77. Victor by almost 10 plus seconds from Phil Kraus in the number 19. Kraus started on the outside of the front row. He had to fight for that finish, but he'll be very delighted with how the race played out. The Frenchman Johan Harth, the iRacing Rallycross World Champion, rounds out the podium on a day that Apex Racing Team would have been hoping for a little bit more. Harth has to settle for 3rd. Pedro Sanchez Albert, very quick on the day. He comes across the line in 4th, with Galvez 10 positions gained for the Portuguese former World Championship competitor as the Yas Heat machine rounds out the top 5. Christopher Demerit, impressive strategy play there for the Team I5G driver. He gets up into 6th position, with Brian Carey, our biggest mover on the day. 25 positions gained for Ontario native Brian Carey, 31 seconds behind the race leader, with Jose Soria keeping him very honest. The German Alexander Walton in 9th, with Henry Bennett in the 007 rounding out the top 10 here today. Syandra for the VRS Satellite Racing comes across the line in 11th. They would have been hoping for a better day. Alex Ellis didn't even make the field before Adam Crane got caught out early on in the action. Austin Espity, the first of the cars, 1 lap down, along with Brandon Treno and Adam Blocker, who have to settle for 13th and 14th. Graham Saunders 15th with Dean Woods. Manuel Domingo 2 laps down. Zach Campbell, pole position, recovers to 18th. He will be very disappointed with how this day ended. Joshua Chin in 19th. He does have to report to race control, so might see him dropping down the order as well. But Oscar Mangan, edge of the top 20 as the Irish number 99 machine completes this race. Peter Zuba in 21st with Xavi Ross in 22nd. This is when we start looking at some of our retirees with Josh Ladd, Yao Valverde, and Ramez Azam 23rd, 24th, and 25th. With Frant Levick, Andreas Eek, Adam Crane, Carly Janssen, and Ilka Happala all getting mixed up in early cautions here today. Just a couple more drivers to take a look at in our 32-car field. It was Pierre Verne, the Frenchman for Race Clutch, as well as Balislav Remenik, the 32nd and final finisher here today. The fastest lap goes to Oscar Mangan, a 1:25.519, and that means, Lewis, he'll get the bonus points as well.
Yeah, a couple of extra points, which will make things a little bit easier as things unfold in the championship. And unfortunately, it's just going to be a bitter pill to swallow for some of these drivers. They've not had a good day. Great day for this driver, Valtteri Alander. For some of those drivers that have had a disappointing day, your Zach Campbells and whatnot, that's the kind of drivers that they need to come back strong, super strong, when we head to Sebring.
Well, I tell you what, let's go trackside straight away. We're getting some great shots of Alander doing some donuts on the pit straight, and he joins us now in the commentary booth as well. Congratulations, Valtteri. What an interesting race that was, and you come out on top in our season opener here today.
Yeah, quite an unexpected result, to be honest. But it was nice to see that the pace was okay today, so yeah, really nice feeling.
What do you think about this car, Valtteri? I'm sure one of the first times that you're getting to compete in a regular basis in the IndyCar. 2 tire compounds, the new damage model as well. There's so many different things that are different to the other open wheelers on the service, and it's a very interesting car to come and set up as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed this car a lot because I like open wheelers, and I have wanted to do league races with this car for a long time, and now there's finally a chance. So yeah, I really enjoy this car. It's really nice to drive. It's challenging to drive. It's challenging to set up. So the whole package, it's just great.
What's the rest of the year look like for you, Valtteri? Of course, you've got 5 more races in this championship, challenging yourself on the ovals as well. What else are you guys competing in? Kova, we talked about it just a few moments ago. Not just a sim racing team, but an esports organization in Finland that continues to go from strength to strength.
Well, yeah, we have a lot of races coming up, so yeah, need to focus for those of course. But my main focus will be on this series, of course, during the summer. So I'll be waiting these races and see how we will compete on the ovals because I don't have much experience on those.
Well, at least then it sounds like you'll have a lot of fun trying something new. Congratulations, Valtteri. Delighted to see your face as well. You look pretty happy in the interview room right now. Can't wait to see you in action in a couple of weeks' time as well.
Yeah, thanks. And I just want to say it's Mother's Day tomorrow in Finland, so I know my mom will be watching this. So I want to say a happy Mother's Day to her.
Congratulations, Valtteri. Happy Mother's Day indeed. What a way to celebrate, and hopefully he'll be able to celebrate in person as well. A couple more shots of the donuts there. Alander very comfortable, it would seem, at least, with that part of driving the Dallara IR18. Let's now bring in second place finisher Phil Kraus in the number 19, and Lewis McLeod is standing by.
Good race, great stuff, great pace throughout. Saw you taking things a little bit more cautious in the earlier stages of the race though, Phil, and maybe just playing things a little bit more of the long game?
Oh yeah, definitely, and it seemed to pay out as well at the end because I know there were a lot of cars that were a lap down caught up in incidents this race, so the mindset going in was to be pretty conservative because I felt like I out-qualified where I was on like the race pace table, but it seemed like a lot of the people who were quicker than me kept on getting caught up in minor little scuffles, minor little incidents, and it ended up paying off in the end, which is really nice.
It's a really, really short season, just 6 rounds. We've already seen one of the favourites in that title race, Zach Campbell, having an issue in those early stage races. You're saying there that a few of the drivers getting involved in little scuffles and stuff. Is there any sort of like a hope in that sense? Is there sort of like, I don't want to say good feelings in a sense, but you've seen a lot of these drivers fall by the wayside. Does that give you a little bit more of a push in the championship stuff?
I mean, going into this, I don't think I was really thinking about championship, thinking the talent of this grid, obviously. I know I'm not, like... going into it, I wouldn't say I was on the same level as these guys, but I'd say this race was a huge confidence booster, for sure, because, wow.
It's a title race as well that sees us venturing to a lot of different circuits, a lot of different styles of racing, street circuit racing, road course racing, and of course ovals as well. You've got a little bit of experience sort of jumping into all of that kind of stuff elsewhere in sim racing and all over the place. Is there anything that's sort of a bit of a concern, a bit of a red flag already?
I don't think anything's a particularly big red flag. Sebring, back in the official series, I struggled a little bit, but I think we'll get that turned around pretty quickly. The rest of the calendar, to be honest, I'm really looking forward to. Long Beach with this new tire is an absolute blast to drive. The ovals, the Team Talent guys are just amazing when it comes to oval setup, so I'm looking really good there, I think. So definitely looking forward to everything. If Sebring can go pretty well, I think we'll be in a good place.
A final question then, very quickly. Obviously with the new tyres, with how this car's unfolding and such like that, did you learn anything specific, obviously not give anything away, did you learn anything specific from the race that may help you in this car in future?
Yeah, I definitely think we learned a lot of things for this track that we wouldn't have necessarily stumbled upon if the series didn't exist, because obviously with the caliber of the series, you have to push a lot harder to try to find those little bits of time, and I think we did a really good job coming into this race doing that, so hopefully it'll carry over to the other tracks, but obviously we don't know yet.
Well, thanks Phil. 2nd place, great stuff out there.
Yeah, thanks man, I'm hyped for it.
So, Philip Kraus, 2nd in qualifying, 2nd in the race as well. And I mentioned the confidence there, Lewis. You can clearly tell he's going to be taking a lot of that from this result today.
Yeah, I was interested to hear from, obviously, Valtteri. And this is one of the things of this championship, of seeing drivers take to stuff they're not used to. Oval racing being the key thing there. And we're saying it's a long championship, or it's a lot of different stuff in the championship. It's all about playing things right across those rounds. Not much oval experience. Oh, that's a bit of a question.
One more interview then before we wrap things up here from round 1 in the 2021 season of the ISOWC. Let's bring in the iRacing Rallycross World Champion, Johan Harth. Interesting day there for you, Johan. You've been busy, balancing all sorts of commitments. First, finishing up your World Championship campaign in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Last couple of weeks, you've had the IRX All-Star Invitational as well. Now jumping into the Open Wheelers again. How did today go? It was almost a victory. I just think that Valtteri Alander had some magic pace midway through the race.
Yeah, he felt some magic. I don't know where that pace was coming from, but yeah, congrats to him again. And well, that was a pretty fun day too, to be honest. Didn't really expect to do that well. Was hoping for maybe a top 5, have a nice good result for the first round, get some points. But yeah, P3 I'll definitely take it, especially after that last stint. I was on the verge of losing it every single corner, so yeah, P3, I'll take that any day.
Well, Apex Racing Team, Johan, looked extremely strong in the qualifying. Did look as though not as comfortable in the race trim as well. Did you guys find some magic when you were building your race qualifying setup? Because Zach Campbell, consistently super quick, just didn't have that same comfort in the race conditions.
I guess the mistake we made was that we practiced in maybe a bit too low track temp. We were practicing in 48C, 50C, and yeah, I think we missed something there. The car was definitely not great in racing.
Well, the margins are also small in a championship like this as well. What are your championship aspirations, Johan, with this podium now? Kraus and Alander in front looked very strong. There'll be 2 names that we follow throughout the season, but you're always someone that we watch for at the front of these championships.
Oh, considering I've got points in, Zach didn't get that good of a day. I don't know if Philip and Valtteri have some experience on it, so I might have a shot. if I do well next round at Sebring, I might have a shot then.
Well, Johan, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on this podium. I'll see you from Atlanta Motor Speedway in a couple of days' time for the next round of the All-Star Invitational. Looking forward to seeing you back on the dirt.
Yeah, see you on Tuesday night.
So that was the Frenchman, the iRacing Rallycross World Champion as well. Podium interviews done then, Lewis. It's time to start saying goodbye and looking forward to the month of June and 3 races that we have in this season of the ISOWC.
Yeah, what a brilliant opener to the season. Before we head off, we go across June. We head to Sebring, we head to Auto Club, and we also head to Long Beach as well before rounding out the season. Road America and, of course, the ISOWC 500 for good measure. Fantastic. Probably as much as the cautions, maybe not ideal, one of the best ways to start the season, though. What strategy did we see?
I'm going to quote Will Vincent when it comes to anything RaceSpot does. The first time we do it, it might not be perfect, but we'll learn and we will return better than ever before. This championship, after 5 long years away, returns for 2021, $7,000 in prize money, and so many helpful people making this happen. Lewis, I'm going to ask for one small prediction from you then for June. 3 races, not back-to-back. Auto Club and Long Beach will be an interesting phase for us. What do you think will happen here? Does Alander go on to conquer the month of June, or does Zach Campbell, for example, bounce back as we head to Sebring?
I'm not sure necessarily about Sebring. That one's going to be wide open. Long Beach is about minimising mistakes and keeping out of the barrier, and Auto Club is going to be all about playing the long game. These 3 circuits play to completely different driving styles and strategies, and so from that sense, I think we are going to see 3 wildly different race winners, and this championship should be spilled wide open.
And you can catch it all live on RaceSpotTV. Lots more IndyCar action to come here in the month of May. Next week, the iRacing Fixed 500, the 2nd annual running of this race, where cars get equal chances of winning this competition. Sage Karam won 12 months ago. Who will win this time around? A week after that, the 2021 iRacing Indy 500, the 12th annual running of this race, as Brandon Traynor looks to write history. Not only the only 2-time winner of the race, he wants to be the only 3-time winner and do it back-to-back as well. From the team at RaceSpotTV, though, it's time to say goodbye. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. I've been joined by the wonderful Lewis McLeod for today's action. Hugo Luis, a former iRacing world champion, has been down in the production booth, controlling all of the action, with TV cameras provided by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com. Additional car cameras designed by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxon. Live timing and scoring powered by our friends at timing71.org, where you can follow along with the best in real and virtual motorsport. For now, though, for the month of May, it's time to say goodbye from the ISOWC 2021 season. It's Valtteri Alander in victory lane, and in 3 weeks' time, we'll do it all again from the Sunshine State. So long and goodbye, and enjoy the rest of the month of May.